to a new episode of the Game Informer Show. I am your host, Ben Hanson, joined as always by trusty Timothy Turi.
Ben Hanson, how are you today?
Real good, real good. Then we got old B-Scoot, Brian Shea himself over here.
Hello, everyone.
And then we have...
What is that?
Javy Havoc.
Javy Havoc? What does that even mean?
Our newest employee, Javy. Welcome to the Game Informer Show, man.
Havoc. You should be ashamed of that.
Hi. What is your actual last name, Javy?
Gwaltney.
Gwaltney?
Yes.
What is that? What nationality
It's
is
just
that?
nonsense. It's Welsh nonsense.
Perfect. And just so everybody can be on the same page, because I'm adamant about this, it's not JV, which I think is a character in Step by Step. It's JV.
Now I really want to see Step by Step.
Shea said it well. He like Navy with a J.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Are you annoyed by people calling you JV?
No.
Great.
Is it like it's because it'd be indecipherable? Like the difference is I don't know if you'd be able to hear
notice.
it.
Yeah.
What's the worst someone's blown your name?
Oh, man. I had a fifth grade science teacher called me Jarvis.
There's so many extra letters.
She was kind of old, like 96 or something. But, it was just inexplicable. And it went on for the whole year. And I couldn't do anything
She
about it.
loved you as Jarvis.
Yeah, and then she eventually started calling you Vision. It was very confusing. Get up on that mic, JV. Make sure you're closer when you talk to it.
Hello?
Get up.
Can you hear me?
Welcome to Game Informer, sir.
Yeah, welcome.
On behalf
Thanks,
of our
guys.
entire community, we will welcome you. Thank you for being on this little podcast, man.
I'm glad to be here.
All right. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? What makes you tick, JV?
I'm from Banjo country. I'm from South Carolina.
Down there in Banjo-Kazooie?
I'm from Kazooie
exactly.
country.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
You stepped on it.
I'm so sorry. Actually, we do want to know where you're from.
I'm from South Carolina originally. I grew up in a town called Bamberg. We had a Taco Bell, a Pizza Hut, and like 2 stoplights.
You're doing well.
and that's it. Yeah.
Do you guys have a chili cheese burrito?
No,
Oh, damn. I know it's regional. I just wasn't sure if you were one of the lucky ones.
no, we weren't.
Every once in a while, we hear your voice booming across the office because you're a screamer. It's the first thing people should know about JV. But we hear your voice booming, and it sounds like just a tinge of former editor and host of this podcast, Matt Helgeson, with like just a little bit of a southern accent.
Okay.
It's a good voice, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I was like, okay, is this an insult?
It's a good thing. He hosted the podcast for 5 years, pretty much based solely on the fact that people liked his voice. No, he was a good host too. We miss him dearly. Yeah.
But this episode of the podcast, we got a lot to cover. We're breaking down all things PSX. Brian Shea was out there in San Francisco, seeing the sights and sounds and smells of everything that's wonderful out there.
Oh, the smells.
It smells very greatly from block to block. Either it's a homeless man's feces or very genuine Mexican food.
Or a homeless man's urine.
That's true.
Or
really
a
runs the game.
sweaty media room, as was the case.
That'll do it too.
And then we're going to talk a little bit more about Rainbow Six, a little bit of mop up on that. JV's been playing a hell of a lot of it.
like 20
What's that, Tim?
hours.
I don't know, it's mop up. I don't know. If,
I like the frizz mop
No,
up.
that's fine. But we were just talking about. Never mind. Go
Almost man feces.
And then
Oh.
at the very end, to round things off, we're going to cover the VGAs. Basically telling you exactly why the VGAs were incorrect.
TGAs.
I'm sorry. Dang it. This is Geoff Keighley's Awards. Geoff Keighley was a guest on the podcast a while ago. Just breaking down how that show went, what we think of the winners, what we think of the losers, everything that happened on that show. Because I watched it and I enjoed it.
Yeah, we have some we have some predictions too. We can run down what our predictions were and kind of compare those up against what actually happened.
That sounds great. Start things out. JV, should we talk a little bit about your experience with Rainbow Six?
Sure. You've been playing it too, though, right?
Yeah. I haven't played it since the last episode of the podcast, but you've played a fair amount with the reviewer Matt Burtz.
Yeah. I played with Matt to help him because you have to get to like level 20 before you can actually start doing like ranked play. And the difference between casual,
It's like Splatoon.
the
That was the first thing I
between
thought too.
Casual and ranked is like people in ranked actually take the game seriously. So you're more than likely to find like people who work together with you, even if you're playing randos. They're using mics and whatnot. Because if you've made it that far, then you've been working with people because it's just such a grind. Otherwise, if you're going from game to game with people who are just running all over the map, shooting stuff, not wanting to do anything or work together.
It's the worst.
It's inherently team based. Like it's tight teams of like short matches where it's just like you can't just go lone wolf at like Call of Duty or something.
Oh, right. It's aggressively team based. Like it's to the point that if you're not working in a team, you're just going to be miserable. It's more evolved than it is Counter-Strike in that way. Like it's just there is no option. Work with your teammates or just be miserable.
Is
also,
there
also like evolve in that there's no campaign, right?
Right.
Really worth speaking of.
Well, there's training missions and you just run around and shoot people. It doesn't really prep you in any meaningful way because the AI is terrible. It's horrid.
Just like every training mode should prep you in no meaningful way whatsoever.
exactly.
The training mode, it's called situations. That's exactly what it is. It's just a handful of random situations. Like,
Right.
all right, get through this. All right, have fun in multiplayer.
And it's really
now.
weird because they present it as training or not even simulations, but like situations. But you're shooting like actual people in the game. Like they bleed, they fall over, they're not robots or anything.
Who are these volunteers? Is that what you're asking?
who are these people who have volunteered to get shot? But anyway, the only useful thing about it is you can do it and earn money or currency. I think it's renown is what it's called, to like unlock operators, which are basically your class specialty. Like they carry like little objects, devices that'll help you in various ways. Like you can get a breach cannon. It's literally a small cannon that you put on a door and you just fire a grenade through it, and it just blows up into like multiple grenades and just completely destroys the room.
So it's a good weapon to shoot for.
Who's the best character, JB? Who should people go for? What's the most interesting character? Other than Mr. Shieldman with the flashlight on the front.
Yeah, Mr. Shieldman with the flashlight on the front is pretty great. I think the most useful character, his name is Mute. So at the beginning of each match, the attackers get to send out little drones to look all over the map to try and find out where the target room is. And that's usually containing a hostage that has a bomb. And that's actually, I think, like the most important stage of the game because, you have to plan. You have to know where stuff is. So if you don't find the room or your opponents take out your drone, then you have to spend like half of whatever time you have left searching for it, trying to figure out where it is. So I think the one character for the defenders, his name is Mute, and he can set up jammers that'll kill those drones like when they come close. And one of the most valuable strategies you can do is don't place them anywhere near the room, though, because that's like a telltale sign, especially with any of the traps, that, there's something important here. So the best thing you can do is like go to the floor above, go to the floor below, and place traps, various traps. So that's what we kind of do with the jammers and stuff to try and get attackers to think, okay, this is where the target is when it's nowhere near it.
Sure.
Yeah. So he's probably my favorite.
How quickly did you get into the nitty-gritty of that? Because, I mean, that sounds like it's pretty advanced play. In some ways, like, if I was playing, I don't know if I would think to do anything like that.
Well, I played the beta, so I think it's honestly like a couple of matches to get like the basics down. It's one of those easy to learn, difficult to master sort of games.
You play a lot of shooters?
Yeah.
You do?
Shooters
Okay.
are my favorite genre.
Like military shooters specifically? Like, did you play a lot of like Counter-Strike or?
Yeah.
You did? Okay, gotcha.
Counter-Strike, Call of Duty.
Okay.
The older Rainbows.
You're a conundrum, JB,
Why?
because you say choose your favorite genre, but you also told us your favorite game of the year is
Tales.
Tales from the Borderlands.
Yeah.
So you really run the gamut.
Yeah,
What are like your
Wolfenstein was my favorite game last year. So
It was a good game.
All right, I guess
Order's-
that adds up.
Or is that, the New Order?
New Order's great. Yeah, the Old Blood's pretty good too.
New Order,
but it's
Old Blood. Okay.
Not the New Order.
Favorite game of all time, JB. This
Mass
is
Effect 2.
Wow.
No,
hesitation.
There you go.
No, wait. Hesitation. Half-Life or Mass Effect 2. It's hard.
Half-Life
Half-Life 1.
Half-Life 1 or Mass Effect 2.
Now, why? All right. So Mass Effect 2, just slight detour. There's a little bit more to say about Rainbow Six. All right. So Half-Life 1, huge innovator in the first-person shooter space, storytelling and all that, like environments that actually seem functional and have an identity. And then Half-Life 2 did a lot of those things, improved on them in pretty much every single way, including physics. But you went with Half-Life 1, whereas Mass Effect 2, polished version, a little bit more streamlined versus the first Mass Effect. Why didn't you go with Mass Effect 1, or why didn't you go with Half-Life 2?
Okay. Hold on, give me a second. Okay, let's break this down game by game then. Okay, with Half-Life, you have to understand I was tiny. I was like 9 years old when that game came out. And I
Okay.
just like
So you're just like 6'1" back then.
yeah. Yeah, I was
JV's a tall man.
I wasn't Andre the Giant back then. Like I am now. But I liked the difference in storytelling, I guess. I mean, I obviously Half-Life storytelling compared to now is kind of silly, but back then it was really cool that the game was like a single extended take
Right.
in a movie. Like there were very few like actual cutscenes. There are a couple, like 2, but I liked like actually being able to take part in the story, talk to characters without having to like choose little prompts, like multiple choice stuff.
It was a first-person shooter that begins before the shooting starts. It's like it builds up to it. It earns some of that.
And just think of like that lack of cutscenes, how well that story ages compared to other games of that era.
Right.
Right. So like it was just incredible for me. And Mass Effect 2, I played Mass Effect 2 first. Okay.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
'cause
weird.
So PS3 then?
No,
or
PC.
Or PC?
Yeah,
Oh,
because
okay.
I didn't play games in college just because I wanted to get my degree.
Is that advised? Is that the way to do that? I don't know.
Oh, I've led my life the wrong way.
Dan Reichert would tell you something different. But,
So my brother just got it for me because he knew I was into space operas like Star Wars and stuff. And
Okay.
so I booted it up. And what I like about Mass Effect 2, especially after Mass Effect 3, which I also dig, but for different reasons, is and I think Kirk Hamilton talked about this at Kotaku, is the way it's presented like television episodes. Like how you can go on quest with characters and their little missions and like you can do them in 20 minutes and you're done.
yeah.
I've heard people compare it to like it is next generation the game basically. And so did you go back and play Mass Effect 1 then?
Yep. I went back, I played Mass Effect 1 soon after I played Mass Effect 2 like 5 times.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So what did, having played Mass Effect 2 that much, what did you feel about 1? Like, what did you like and what didn't you like about it?
The combat is terrible. Like it is awful. You like even when you're like a sniper and you have like all the points put into like whatever the sniper category is, it's still hard to hit anything.
Really?
It's just ridiculous.
It's still a roll of the
It's been
dice.
so
yeah.
long.
Yeah. I do like the wonky physics though. I think that's honestly my favorite bit
Really?
of the first Mass Effect because you can like throw someone in a circle and they'll like go spinning across the room. It's just
Perfect.
ridiculous.
I remember the weapon customization was so deep in the first one that it was intimidating, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But I agree. Half-Life, before we move back to Rainbow Six, you a fan of The Mist? You ever read
Oh
The
Christ!
Mist?
Here
or
we go,
seen
everybody.
Steven The Mist, Frank Darabont's film? Or
Oh yeah,
Stephen
I've
King?
seen the movie. I haven't read
Yeah.
it.
You should read it. If you're a big fan of Half-Life, it's just like super clearly inspired by The Mist novella specifically. And
Actually, all right, yeah. Actually, the Mist was the first date me and my long-term girlfriend ever went on.
oh, great! That ending is a real good one good note to end on there. Holy hell!
Did it
How
end
was
up-
that?
Did
I
it
don't.
mirror the relationship then with the overall structure?
I don't
No.
want to spoil it for people who haven't seen The Mist. But like, how did you guys like credits? What was the next thing that you
We
guys?
went
Passionate
for
makeout
coffee and
session.
then talked for like 2 hours.
Yeah, you immediately talk about. Well, if we were in that situation, I would do it way differently, dear.
I think the point where we realized that this was a bad date movie was when the spiders came out of that guy's face.
God, that part, the drugstore part.
Yeah.
That movie's so good. Have you
is
seen the
good.
black and white version?
No.
You should watch
I've heard
it.
about it.
I'll loan it to
I
you.
do want to see it though.
How many spiders come out of the operators' faces in Rainbow Six?
Yeah,
Siege?
black and white, much like the cover of Rainbow Six Siege, released by Ubisoft. But overall, we've already talked a lot about this game. I feel like, but who would you recommend this game to? Who's the ideal audience? for
Anyone
this
who
thing?
has friends that they can play games with regularly because that's.
So playing this with strangers seems right out. It's just not happening.
Well, I won't say it's right out because when Matt and I were playing, it was just us for a bit. We played with Geoff for like the first day, and then he had to take a sick day. I think the day after.
Spiders.
Yeah, the spiders got bit by those terrorist spiders. They'll mess your insides up. But so we found some randos to play with, and it took us like 3 maps. Like 3 matches to do that, but then we did find some people we could play with regularly. But it's hard, because then those people, because the lobby system is really strange. Like unless you party up with those people, and that's Ubisoft's UI is kind of really weird to work with to do that. They get kicked out like just randomly when you go from match to match or server to server.
Much like Splatoon.
So it's a pain. So yeah, I'd say if you have friends who are into this game, sort of the game, then it's definitely like you should definitely get this.
Okay.
I'm excited just because I'm borrowing some copies from work and I'm lining it up with my friends so we can all play just Terrorist Hunt. Like
That's where
having,
all
like-
those copies went. Thanks.
Yeah, I've
Give
just
them
been
to your friends.
hugging all of them on a temporary basis because just playing with your friends is just night and day.
I'm not one of your friends. You didn't try to get me hooked up in that.
Would you like to play with us?
This is a recurring theme now on the podcast. Yeah, I want to play some Rainbow Six Siege, especially
Yeah.
after JV said all these things about it.
There's still a part of me though, even though I've been here for 5 years, that thinking about like playing with coworkers, it stresses me out because I'm like, those are like real gamers and they like know what they're doing. Whereas I feel like I just want to mess around and dick around and have fun in a game. And I feel like you take things just a little bit too seriously sometimes.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
It's turned to therapy.
Yeah, I don't like to lose all the time.
Yeah, see, where we don't have feelings on that. And we're just in it to make each other laugh.
Well, I
ultimately.
don't.
We like
Anyway,
to have fun
I think
with
that you're
games.
creating a convenient reality for yourself. Here.
We've never played Destiny with each other.
Yeah, it's a great game.
We should get back into that.
Okay,
I
I'm
mean,
into it.
We should just play with each other once. Like I'm just madly in love with Destiny right now, and I
Yeah.
always see you on my friends list, and we've never jumped into it.
I'd be happy to. I've been looking for an excuse to get back
Is
in
this
there.
a challenge? A friendship challenge?
Friendship challenge. see if we can survive another podcast.
I'm actually curious because I don't like Destiny that much.
All right, Mr. Shooter.
I know it's weird. It's weird.
Probably the best shooting mechanics we've had in a long
What?
time.
No.
That's the best feeling gunplay.
We'll get to it in the VGAs. They nominated the best shooter. But anyways, go on.
Yeah. I was just curious. I think I might hop back in, download that. How ridiculously big file that is. It's like 40 gigs or something.
Absolutely.
Have
do
you
it.
played Taken King?
Yeah.
Oh, you have.
I like Taken King actually a lot more. I don't love Destiny, but I think it fixed a lot of Destiny's problems.
Oh, yeah.
So I was home recently and we watched all the Star Wars, every single one of them. And
Ewoks Adventures.
Yeah. What?
Okay. Ewoks Adventures. the
Ewoks
whole thing.
Adventures, the Christmas special. So I came back. And then they announced the Sparrow thing, and I was like, "Oh man, that looks like some good old pod racing, poor man's pod racing." I'm gonna have to reinstall Destiny.
Well, it's more
for
like
that.
they're more like what are they called?
Oh, the indoor things.
No, speeder bikes.
Yeah, the
Right.
speeder bikes.
More like speeder bikes, but pod racing's cool too.
Yeah,
Best part of episode 1.
Yeah,
that is
really-
the best part of episode 1.
Yeah.
I actually watched episode 1 last night, and I would have to agree.
Yeah. Do you have a good sound system?
No.
Because like if you had we watched it. So JV's actually moved into a friend of mine's place, and former roommate there, this person that lived there, has this awesome setup, big projector, awesome sound system, and his neighbors must hate him or really love pod racing and Star Wars because
it's just like the audience.
It's so great. Like the sound design for the pod racing part is so good. Like
amazing.
Anakin's pod will go, and it just goes like whoop, 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 whoop. And then you get Sebulba's, and it's like chunkier. Yeah. It's just like the way that the sound profile for each of the pod racers.
Right.
They did a good job with
Pods,
that.
it's awesome. They do without the Greg Proops commentary maybe a little bit, but yeah. And now we've been rewatching all of them again, so JB kind of has to like see them all.
I know. I'm
again.
so lucky though because I missed out on
Yeah.
Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
I was grateful for that.
And we're watching the despecialized editions, so that's cool.
which is super fun.
Yeah, you should find a friend who has those.
Yeah, definitely check it out. Should we move on to the hot PSX stuff?
Oh my God, yes.
Yes.
Brian Shea, this is your first time in San Francisco, right?
Yes.
What'd you think? Tell us about this journey.
It was fine.
Great.
All right. Yeah. So
What'd you eat?
I went to a nice, it's called R&G Lounge.
I got some homeless man's poop.
R&G Lounge. It's a family-style Chinese restaurant that's like in a basement somewhere. Went there. It was really, really good.
Did you have a burrito anywhere?
No, I didn't. But I lived in Texas. So
What does that mean? What is it? I mean, the good Tex-Mex, but I don't know. I've never
burritos.
had a good burrito. I never. Barbecues in Texas, right? And there's some
Barbecue
Tex-Mex,
and,
but
Tex-Mex.
Mission Street burrito in San Francisco.
Yeah, I didn't. No.
No ramen or anything like that.
I wanted ramen, but I didn't eat a lot while I was there.
Hard worker, and that's because you were covering the show, which we want to talk
Yes.
What was the big takeaway? Like I was at PSX last year and I was really impressed by it. Seemed like the crowd was a little bit smaller, especially on that second day than I expected.
Yeah, like it's weird because like there's this big wide open thing. It was in Vegas last year.
Right.
This year it's in San Francisco, and it was like this big open convention floor, 2 floors of like the show itself, and there was a 3rd floor where they held the Capcom Cup, big Street Fighter event.
It's the first time I think that a fighting game competition has had 6 figures for a prize. It was 120,000. But yeah, I watched the Capcom Cup. I mean, slight diversion. It was really, really entertaining.
Is it still Street Fighter 4?
It's Street Fighter 4
Okay.
Ultra, and it was significant because it was the last year for that, presumably. And this whole thing was put on by Capcom and other sponsors and stuff like that. But super, super well done. I watched Evo this year and got into some of the Street Fighter competitions there. That's when I was trying to like teach myself it. But like Capcom Cup was super, super entertaining.
Wow. Who ended up winning it?
Gosh, I'm trying to remember. He was playing Yun versus Daigo's Ryu, but it's I'll look it up. But
Sure.
it's I'll look it up.
Cool. But the actual show itself.
Yeah, just like there were a lot of people there, but like it's not anything like PAX or E3 where it's like you're walking like shoulder to shoulder trying to squeeze through like large groups of people to get to like wherever you're going. Like there were like just wide open areas where like in the middle of the show floor, and you're like, this is kind of refreshing to like be able to get to my appointments without having to like, excuse me, like squeeze through people.
Kazunoko won the tournament.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There we
But
go.
it feels healthy. It feels slimmed down, but still like sustainable. It's not like this thing's bombing.
Yeah, like there were people, like everything had lines. People were excited to check things out. Like obviously it was an enthusiast convention. Like people were there to see PlayStation stuff and play PlayStation stuff. So like there was a lot of passion and a lot of energy and excitement among like the attendees.
To give like number one buzz getter What was really everybody talking about?
I mean, among the media, it was definitely Rez Infinite.
oh yeah.
So I got to do that. So for those familiar with Rez, it's just that only in virtual reality.
Talk about Rez a little bit.
So Rez, it's like an on rails kind of rhythm arcade shooter. So you move the stick and it highlights enemies that are around, and in rhythm with the music, it shoots them. Like when you release the button.
Your music, or is this music that's just in the game?
Well, there's a beat in the game, and then what you're doing shoots, and like it plays like an instrument, kind of like in that regard. So like you'll see 3 enemies up there, and you go do do do, and you go do 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 do.
But there's like, can you upload your own music, or is it?
No, it's in the game itself. So
Were you a Rez fan going in? Because it's like a remake of Rez on the PS2. I never really got the hang of that game. I like music rhythm games, but I just never felt the appeal of Rez after trying it a couple times.
It was fine back, but this is like really cool because like, you know, it's in VR, so like you're flying around all over the place. It's like, you know, kind of futuristic wireframe graphics and bright lights, like pounding music. So like with the headset on, with the VR headset on, it was really cool. And then so I played a little bit of that, and super immersive. I can look behind myself and everything.
Did it feel like the future?
It felt like, I guess, if virtual reality is the future.
I mean, did it feel like it feels like if you're watching a sci-fi movie and like, you gotta check out this VR, man. Like Rez would be the game that they're playing.
That totally would be.
Like from the music, which is I'm assuming pretty electronic focused, and like
very much
those
so.
visuals where it's just sort of like a pseudo like super cleaned up but kind of 90s 80s like virtual world aesthetic.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, you know, neon colors, wireframe graphics, and
that sounds awesome.
yeah. And then the cool thing was, so I was like, all right, I'm on board with this. And then they like, all right, we'll take off the headset. We want you to put on a full body vibration suit. And
What?
they were like, we don't know if this is gonna, because the original Rez had like a vibrating controller that you could have that like pulsed with the music, and it
You mean just a controller?
it was like a rumble pack before. Yeah, I guess.
Well, it's a PS2.
Yeah.
So.
It's kind of like the activator for Sega,
But
the where you play a fighting game and you'd feel like
yeah,
these
that's pretty much what it
pulses?
was.
Okay.
Yeah, but like they were like, I think something like 30 motors all over my body. Like it was all throughout my chest and stomach. Then they strapped it into my arms all the way down to my wrists, and then on my legs all the way down to my ankles.
You felt every beat.
Yeah, and you just feel it all throughout your body. Like when you shoot an enemy, like I'll feel it like in my right arm or left arm, and then like at the end of every section of Rez, like your character like rushes forward super fast, and having the VR headset on when you're doing that, and you see it almost reminded me of like the old screensaver where like the stars are coming at you.
Sure. So you're going into basically like light speed.
Yeah, it felt like that, and like just with the VR headset on, it was like, oh, this is so cool.
Did it do like a ripple thing down your body or something?
You just felt
Tell
like
me about your body. How
you felt it like slowly getting more intense in your chest when that
Okay.
part happened, which was cool. But yeah, and then the music was happening. You just felt it like all over your body.
What are they selling this? Did they
Well,
say
what they
word?
said was it's not right now. There's no plans to make it available to people.
Great.
But if it's like super popular, they might consider like making it like a premium item.
But just to be clear, the Rez Infinite, it's also being released not for VR.
yeah,
Like,
you
there
can
is
play
like
it. You can play it.
standard
I think it's
version.
just you buy it on PS4, and then you can play it with or without VR.
What that makes me think of is like we were talking up Destiny's gunplay, and a part of that is like they do such this amazing, like Bungie does this awesome job of making the vibration feel unique. Like it's this extra little layer that makes all the guns feel a little extra unique, I think. And if you haven't paid attention to it, Ben,
Yeah, I
like,
never have. That's
pay
really
attention
interesting.
to how the controller vibrates when you're playing it, because it's just it sells those weapons in a way that like I'm wondering how that would translate into something like in like this suit. Because if you get the right developer, like I think it's going to take that to that next little step.
Well, that's the thing also is I think that if someone said, hey, let's just release this vibration suit and make it like available for either all games or even just all VR games, like, because it made the experience so much more like, oh, I'm in this universe right now.
Imagine a horror game if something like just touched your right shoulder as you were
That'd be
playing.
so cool.
Or a jump scare did just like feel like you were being grabbed by the arms or something like that.
Yeah,
like with that tension on top of like maybe you wouldn't feel anything for 15 minutes, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm wearing this thing. Like it'd be insane.
You
It's a
did
heart
that
attack.
that Capcom the kitchen
Yeah.
demo in PSVR. And that, like, remember that, like, the creature like just jams a machete in your leg. Do you imagine
Yeah.
if, like, because my leg actually winced when she did that.
Yeah, you
Do
imagine
if like it also vibrated when that happened?
That'd be unreal. Maybe not safe. I don't know.
That'd be cool.
Well, Game Informer told me on Tuesday that it is the year of VR.
Ooh.
So maybe we have a lot to look forward to.
I'm excited. This suit, of course, this announcement came after our our issue. But
Right. Otherwise, the suit would have been on the cover. But the highlight of PSX for me was seeing all the behind the scenes, like vines and photos of Mizuguchi, the creator of Rez, like dancing around people when they were wearing the Rez Infinite
He did
suit.
for me.
Yeah,
I
so
think
it's like
I saw
everyone
that.
just danced around like idiots every time someone was in the suit. And the person who's in the suit was in another world, man. They had no idea that
Yeah.
people were just
Great.
being idiotic around them at all times.
Yeah, there's plenty of pictures of like him just like kind of like leering over my shoulder while I'm playing and
Licking your feet.
Rez, a big announcement. Raz, also another part of the big announcements of PSX.
Well, also, that was actually the TGAs. The Game Awards, they announced Psychonauts 2, and then at PSX, they announced the in-between game, which is like Rumble in the Rhombus?
Rhomboid?
Something
Wait.
like that?
Rhombus is what it is.
Rhombus,
Rhomboid's
yeah,
a
but it's
muscle.
Double Fine. Not only are they pitching Psychonauts 2, it's, 2/3 of the way to being funded on Fig.
It's a slow one.
It's a slower one,
Fig,
right?
Fig being the one that's like it's a crowdfunding thing, but you can if you put enough in, you can get like returns on your investment after so many years or something if they hit numbers. Yeah,
Right. But then this is like a first-person Psychonauts experience that they're making with PlayStation for PlayStation VR, which I'm sure is going to be pretty simple, just kind of tech demo-y type thing. But
Maybe
it's a good way to.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Do we really know anything about it yet?
No, they said it's first person. You're going to be using your powers.
I
in this
mean, we
environment.
can't make that much of an assumption yet. Just a lot of we've seen a lot of tech demo-y type things, but like I don't know, maybe they're the one that knocks it out of the park.
Well, that was kind of my big takeaway from the PlayStation VR stuff during the press conference, at least. I watched that. It's available on YouTube. We put it on our site and whatnot. But like, they're really heralding like, hey, PlayStation VR, man, here we go. And then it was just a lot of gimmicky nonsense where it's like, it's funny because like they'd really build it up like, hey, Sony Santa Monica's working on PlayStation VR. You guys like Sony Santa Monica? And everyone's like, yeah, God of War, applauding. And they're like, here's their game. And then it's like zombies, janky as all hell, driving taxis, basically like Goat Simulator type of vibe. It's like, well, this is what we got, everybody. One of our best studios making this. And then, Javy, I know you're excited about 100-foot robot golf from No Goblin.
Yes, I like big robots and I like destroying cities, and I don't really like golf. I like Desert Golf, that mobile game.
I think that's the best golf
Desert
game,
Golf's
yeah.
great. Yeah. You might be interested in Rigs too, which is the other big robot mech thing.
Right.
Yeah, sports.
But it's the
shooter
creator
for
of Roundabout
PSVR.
making this 100-foot robot golf game.
Roundabout was good.
I love Roundabout. It's an absurd good time. But the game just looks bizarre. You're like a giant robot knocking down buildings, just trying to jank your way to the tee.
Yeah.
To the hole.
I also, and I agree with you about most of the VR stuff. A lot of it does look like, tech demo-y sort of things. And I think the most impressive one I saw, or the one that made me want to check it out, was just like a cinematic, was the Gollum one.
Yeah.
That looked really cool, but I don't really care about the VR thing. Like, I just want to see, okay, what's this world about?
That's a cool, I mean, that's good. That's a good sign, right? Once you start feeling excited about a concept outside of VR, like, I think that's going to be like the tipping point for a lot of people because they'll get excited about them like, oh, also this is a VR game. Like, man, that must make it even cooler.
That's actually, Ben Reeves went and checked out that game at the studio at Highwire Games. And this is from the creators. The creators are Highwire Games, which we had on the show earlier, if you remember, during the Halo Spectacular. So it's Jamie Griesmer and Marty O'Donnell. This is their studio, what they're working on. And so it has an interesting approach to movement where you just tilt your head while wearing PlayStation VR and the giant Gollum figure will like move in that direction. So trying to solve movement in an interesting way,
Right.
which is something we talked about on the episode that went up yesterday with Jason Rubin, just the challenges of movement in VR and the different approaches. So I'm excited to see what it actually would feel like to wear that thing and move around in that way. But Jamie, obviously, you talk about, the Destiny feel. He was a big part of the feel behind the controls of Halo 1.
Yeah.
So he seems to know what he's doing. So I'm curious how this Gollum game fares.
What were the other big non-VR announcements?
Brutal
Yes.
looks amazing.
Have you seen footage of this Brutal game?
I'm not sure.
It looks awesome. JV, give the pitch.
It's hard. It's what'd you say, top-down RPG kind of?
Yeah, who knows if it's going to be like a roguelike or exactly what the gameplay is going to be like.
I got the because I was watching the trailer again earlier before we did this. I got the feeling that it's definitely going to be a roguelike because he said there's something like 23 levels, and
But the catch with it is that the trailer is awesome because it starts out and it looks just like an old ASCII game, and then like the camera pulls down.
ASCII?
Yeah, just like weird numerals and what I think like Apple II
Okay.
I think super early graphics.
Okay,
You know, where
gotcha.
like, you know, if you're playing a racing game, the side of the road is like at signs, like that kind of look.
Yeah.
But then it pulls down and there's like 3D figures and polygons, but they're all like made out of the different ASCII figures.
Oh, weird.
It's the rare example of seeing a game and just being shocked by the art design. Like, holy crap, I've never seen that before. That looks
Okay.
bizarre.
Yeah, it's really interesting to me because, you know, especially now ever since, you know, like, it's one of the first ones. Anyway, since the sort of indie boom, you have a lot of games that try to go for that pixelated look, the retro
Right.
pixelated look. But this is actually another retro aesthetic that looks genuinely interesting.
For
Like,
sure.
it's like, oh man, this is pretty. I haven't really seen this done before. Yeah, I'm for this.
Does it remind you of like the first time you saw voxels in action or something? Like
A little bit.
Yeah, it's
just like
pretty much like
something
that.
kind of familiar, but with more depth and. Okay,
Right.
that's cool.
But speaking of voxels in action and pixelated look, they showed the new Ratchet and Clank game a fair amount, and the crowd was super into it. That was great. But the pixelator weapon.
Oh,
I'm
it's
sure
so
you
much
remember-
fun too.
Oh, you played it?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Tell us what.
So
The pixelator weapon. If you just look up footage of this, because it looks awesome. It pixelates enemies, and then they turn into voxels and like shatter. It looks amazing.
Yeah, and it operates just like a shotgun kind of. So like you're pretty much a shotgun that turns them, and they look like it goes from like this gorgeous 3D graphics to like suddenly there's a guy who looks like he's from the first Doom, like
Right.
standing right in front of you. It's awesome.
That sounds pretty good, but he has depth. Like it's not a 2D thing, or
Yeah, I mean it looks like a 2D thing, but you can go around him, and it's like you can
like
see
3D
the other.
Game Heroes kind of.
Yeah.
Like, okay, gotcha. That sounds awesome.
And there's like all kinds of crazy weapons. Like there's like
Someone in Insomniac just saw the trailer for Pixels. Then and it's just like, well, we can do this, but
We could probably pull this off on the
Yeah,
PS4 quite a bit better. Other big stuff. Uncharted 4, they showed a new cutscene, actually 2 new cutscenes, and then
branching conversations. It looks like.
that's the thing. What do you think about that?
I talked to somebody at Sony, and I asked if that's going to be something that's like we're going to be seeing throughout the entire thing, because there was some like, all right, is that just for the first cutscene? Are we going to get that, or is that going to be something throughout the full game? And they made it seem like it's going to be throughout the full game. So
It's an interesting approach. I'm glad they're doing it.
yeah, and
Yeah.
hopefully it actually has some implications to like the story, as opposed to just like, oh, you saw a different part of a cutscene that somebody else saw.
I'd be curious because so many of the great moments in Uncharted are defined by like, subtle but meaningful character interactions. I wonder if, you're going to be missing out on some, or if, you imagine like
Wonder-
there's some of those great moments between like Elena and Nathan or something, like if you didn't get one of those, like if that would change how much you enjoyed that game. Like, cause I kind of want to, cause I kind of want to just, those stories are so good and like Neil Druckmann's such a good storyteller that I would love to. I don't want to feel like I'm missing something. You know what I mean? I
think-
can see both sides of it.
I don't think it's going to be a telltale thing. We're going to be missing whole scenes or stuff like that. Like the
Elena will remember that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the example they gave in the video is just like Sam, Nate's brother. I think was played by Kim in our reading earlier on this podcast. But he asked us like, "Hey, what have you been up to?" And you have like the option of choosing like, tell him the story of Uncharted 1, 2, or 3. So it seems, I mean, that example seems pretty inconsequential. So yeah, I don't know if it's going to dilute the power of the Naughty Dog writing. I'm excited to have some options there in a cutscene like that.
I mean, that's definitely a series that could use some enhancements, I guess. Some.
Oh, Javy coming out strong against Uncharted, everybody. Go.
I
That's
am
fair.
I am in the Last of Us camp when it
Oh,
comes
sure.
to Naughty Dog's games. I'm not really a big Indiana Jones kind of guy though. I like the first movie, but after that it's like, okay.
Really?
Yeah. I do
Man.
like Sean
Last
Connery.
Crusade? You wanna give it up
Raiders
for?
is the best one.
Yeah, okay.
I think we've talked about this, but if you had to choose which one to watch right now, I would
Raiders of
always
the Lost Ark.
I'd always go Last Crusade.
That's fine.
You were with me.
It's great. It's a great
Last time we
movie.
talked about this, you're like, yeah, I think it's the most
Maybe it's
fun.
because I
would
had
totally watch Last
just
Crusade.
watched
Now see,
Raiders.
I would go Temple of Doom, but for one reason, and that is nostalgia, because that is the only VHS that we had, and so I watched it all the
boy.
time.
It's a good
That's
one.
why you're such a twisted soul.
And that was the only Indiana Jones VHS that we had.
Oh, okay.
I was actually thinking of both Uncharted and Last of Us recently because I feel like I just beat Rise of the Tomb Raider, and I feel like that's sort of a weird in between of those games because like it's bombastic and adventurous like Uncharted, and they go for a lot of those moments in the platforming and stuff. But like there's crafting and like, hey, you got to make this thing and like improvise your weapons and stuff and stealth enemy encounters. I don't know if it does either of those things quite as well as either of those games, but it's a super fun combo of it. I actually it actually really made me want to play Last of Us again because
Same here.
of the like super deliberate like enemy encounters and just like every bullet counted and it's just like, okay, well, I gotta set up this trap here and get that clicker to come in there, and then I'm gonna throw this bottle over there, and then all the clickers are gonna come on those guys and stuff like that. So
I bet.
but the other thing that really left me with is that shooting was not my favorite part of that game.
And there's a lot of it. I don't know if it's just like maybe my machine gun wasn't upgraded all the way, but just like the spray and spread on that thing was just a disaster.
You know
the
what you
entire
had to
game
do?
through.
You switch that over to like the hunting rifle or whatever. There's like a long gun basically, and I was one-shotting like all enemies towards the end of that. But
Really?
And Cork was so big on the bow and arrow, just like, hey man, just put everything into the bow and arrow. I just use it the entire game. That wasn't super great for me, but I went back, I beat the game, I went and did all. That story's garbage, by the way.
Totally.
It is garbage from the
Awful.
beginning to the end, from the stinger thing at the ending.
Oh, it's so stupid.
If you, and I'm not trying to pick a fight or anything. If you're listening to this and you really liked Tomb Raider's story, I think I actually called
You totally
for
did
this
this
last
exact
week, and
thing
we
last week.
didn't get any emails of people trying to say like, I want to hear a measured response to like, hey, this is the good stuff I think in it. But anyway, went back and did all the challenge tombs, and still my favorite part of all those games.
You know
those
what's
challenge
just
tombs.
endlessly fun in Rise of the Tomb Raider? I also beat it just a couple days ago. It's always fun to use that grappling hook thing. I forget what the actual thing is called, but jumping off something and then grappling on and swinging in a game like that action adventure style is so much fun. And it has me looking forward to Uncharted 4 more just because he also has that grappling hook, and just being able to compare that directly to Rise of the Tomb Raiders, which always feels a little bit more like you're in control of the situation.
Pitfall. You know what I mean?
Right, I
It's
guess so.
Pitfall to like the nth degree.
Right.
But
I'm a Jungle Hunt guy myself, but teach their own.
fun game.
Other big stuff.
So
Oh, yeah.
talking about the pixelated art and how that was kind of like a thing that a lot of developers have been doing. There's a game called Chasm, which is coming out.
Yeah, sounds familiar.
So Dan Edelman is also doing like the business and marketing on that. He did the stuff for Axiom Verge.
did this stuff.
He's been kind of like running a lot of like the stuff behind the scenes with Axiom Verge, like
Is
the
the
business.
marketing guy?
Well, business and also.
Okay.
So he's been involved with Axiom Verge. Now he's involved with Chasm. So Axiom Verge was very Metroidvania. Chasm is also more Metroidvania, but it's kind of more on the Castlevania side than it is Metroid. So I think you would love it. The combat feels a lot like Symphony of the
Is
Night.
that the whole title?
Just Chasm.
Yeah.
Because man, I think I saw the trailer for this game, and I was super excited about it. Did you get? So you got to play?
Yeah, I got to play it. I played the first, or not the first dungeon. It's like it's all procedurally generated, but at the same time, every single room is handmade. So like you're gonna get to see like the way he said is you're gonna get to see like 70% of the dungeons that they've made throughout your playthrough. But they're all made like intentionally. So it's not like a computer generated room. It's just like the order in which you encounter them is procedurally
Yeah,
generated.
gotcha. I've that's like Rogue Legacy kind of is like the same thing. Like it's just the way the puzzle in which those are rearranged is what changes. But I'm curious how they can deliver. I can see like how a Castlevania game would be like that, because like the classic ones and even up to Symphony was about like going from room to room, and there's those door transitions. Like it felt like stitched together rooms. But what about that Metroid exploration part of it? I feel like that would be the trade-off there.
It's definitely more Castlevania than Metroid,
Okay.
but
More action
there
focused.
is a little bit of exploration because like I mean it's a seed, so like in the very beginning it determines everything that you're going to do like before you go in. So when I mean, and the part that I played was pretty linear, but I did get a little bit of a sense of the exploration. Like I got to a part where I needed an ability to grab onto like the ledge.
Okay.
So I had to go down and then go left, and then I could climb back up and climb.
Well,
the
hey,
ledge.
Brian, speaking of Castlevania-like games, did you see Adult Swim's Death's Gambit?
I did not.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, Death's Gambit they showed off during the press conference, and it looks like an awesome old Castlevania game. And Tim, I'm really curious what you think of it.
I saw that's the one that I saw the trailer for. Like it's got like a 16-bit plus sort of aesthetic to it, I think, and it looks super good. The animations were awesome from what I remember. I'm pumped for it.
Also from Adult Swim, which is weird that it's a relatively big indie game publisher now, but I love it. They had a good trailer in the press conference. But did you see anything about this game called Small Radios, Big Televisions?
I did not.
First of all, that name is fascinating to me. And then the actual footage, I had no idea what the hell I was looking at. And not like in a Media Molecule Dreams type of way, but just It was just random, good-looking objects rotating in a unique way. I could not put this together, so I was really hoping to get your hands on with this because I really wanted more of what the hell this is.
I didn't. There were so many indies at that show. Like
what was the number one indie you saw? Most exciting.
I mean, Chasm is definitely up there.
Okay.
I would say that actually the booth right next to that, there's a game called Stories: The Path of Destinies.
That's the worst name I've
That
ever heard
is
in my
a
life.
terrible name.
So
It sounds like they wanted 2 different titles and they just jammed them together.
So
Horizon
basically, it's
Zero
like an isometric camera going around, kind of like maybe almost like top-down Zelda style, and it's like branching storylines. So like every so often, you'll get like a story, almost like a book where it'll like read off like a cinematic, and then you choose like, all right, do I want to go with this method or do I want to go with this method? So like at the beginning of my demo, there was like, all right, do you want to, there's this big threat coming and you have to figure out some way to fix it. Your friend has a really good idea of like how you can take it. Do you want to follow his advice? Or there's also, this legendary weapon that defeated this army of like centuries ago. We can go try and find that if you want. So I chose one and like it took me down to like this dark dungeon and like was killing enemies all over the place. And then if I chose the other one, it was like some like sunny town where I was saving like somebody who was kidnapped.
I'm skeptical of this. Is this just like an indie Until Dawn Telltale?
No, because it also played like a Zelda game. Like
Okay.
I was ranting and raving about Hob from PAX Prime. It played a lot like that. Like the swordplay felt great.
That's from the creators of Torchlight?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was there as well. I didn't play it because I think it was the same build that I played at PAX, but that's also a really good indie title. If you have a chance to see that, I highly recommend that.
What's the name again?
Well, Hob is the
the
one by
other one.
Torchlight.
Stories?
Or Stories: The Path of Destinies.
Chronicles Part 2.
That's worse than, what is it, The Legend of Legacy?
Oh boy,
It's not worth
amazing.
It's not worse than The World Trees Woe and The Blight Below.
I like that. I got a quick question for you. So PSX, it's also a fan convention. People like to bring their handhelds to fan conventions and play with friends and stuff. Did you see more Vitas, PSPs, or 3DSs?
I actually didn't see many handhelds.
Really?
So that would probably mean they
sad.
brought their Vitas.
Probably, yeah, right. 'Cause there's nothing to play, but I'm not going over to that Nintendo side.
I brought my 3DS and I didn't like carry it around the show floor or anything, but just sitting in my hotel, I got 10 street passes.
There you go.
So
All right.
There were people
They
there.
were there.
in hiding.
Lurking in the
They, at
shadows.
least during the press conference, Geo, who heads up like third-party publishing over there, he referenced Vita a couple times, which I know like people always like to rave on Twitter every time there's a Sony press conference, and
Geo-
the Vitas aren't Geo Corsi,
Okay.
Geodude.
Mr. Hashtag Make the List himself.
Okay.
But he at least referenced a couple games like Hitman Go and some other stuff is going to be coming to Vita as well as PS4.
Oh, that's nice.
Also, other big announcements, not huge, but they showed new Neo footage. Neo, that's that Team Ninja.
NI-OH.
I don't know if there's a hyphen. There might be. But anyways, it's basically Dark Souls Onimusha, but it seems like it's gaining a lot of buzz. It's definitely worth checking out. Ni no Kuni 2 announced.
Surprise.
Yeah.
Tim, you played the first one.
I played probably like 30 hours of it or something like that. It was one of those fight for the top 50, top 50
Right.
game of the years. Like, hey, we want to get another perspective on this. And what a charming little game, awesome art style. But it was just the combat became so repetitive to me.
Yeah, for sure. In the intro trailer, to Ni no Kuni 2, they show the mom dying. Just like Ni no Kuni 1.
Like just a different character, but by mom.
Right. And the
Okay.
interesting angle here is that you're actually playing as a king. And I like that idea of playing as it's a little bit Fable 3, I suppose, but I always like the idea of having a powerful character instead
Yeah.
of just rags to riches storyline for I prefer riches to riches, personally.
Goes to show,
Fair.
no amount of money will save your mom from death.
There we go.
Yeah.
Well, cheery.
Epic Games finally showed footage of Paragon, that game that they've been teasing as a hero shooter. But what I loved about it is it's third person, looks absurdly amazing. Check out the gameplay trailer.
And they have a replay system that's built in, so like you can, if you do something really cool, you can actually make your own like replay or they showed me some footage because I had a meeting with them.
Okay.
They showed me some footage that they edited with just like the replay trailer, and it looked like a cinematic. Like it looks like something you'd see like on a TV commercial.
It's really like one of the best looking games I've seen, and it's weird that it's a MOBA. And I love that instead of dancing around it like Battleborn and some other studios out there, like, oh, this is hero shooter. This game, like the announcement, like Epic Games is making a MOBA.
Yep.
It's third person. Here it is. You can judge it on your own, but it looks like a bunch of wacky characters. Believe it or not, it's the trend in the industry these days. But I'm curious to see like what the market is like for a gorgeous MOBA. is there an audience that wants those two things combined? You know,
I think this is the best chance I've had to try like a MOBA and like actually devote a lot of time to it because I love the way Epic's like at least their shooters play.
Sure.
So.
I mean, presentation and polish goes a long way. Like, look at Overwatch. Like, that genre isn't one that specifically calls to me, but like, the stars are aligning with what they're doing that's pulling me in. So maybe Epic can do the same with MOBAs.
Yeah, definitely. As long as they get Fortnite out the door sometime soon, I am completely fine with whatever they want to do in the MOBA genre. That seems fine. But we should get to the big news, the biggest of the big. Final Fantasy VII, everybody. Come on. That must have been the most talk of the show, right?
Can't wait for that Telltale game series.
How dare you?
But Brian, what was the reception? What was the general climate you felt at PSX about the Final Fantasy VII gameplay and extended like look at the game?
So I wasn't actually at the press conference, so I didn't like get like the big like swell of excitement that I'm sure somebody who was there did. And didn't hear like a lot of people really talking about it.
No?
They're like, yeah, it looks pretty cool, but like we don't really know anything about it. Like the big buzz was once they said, oh, it's episodic or it's going to be split into different episodes or whatever
They said it's going to be a multi-part story, but that every game release is going to be the size of a full-size game. So it's not going to be broken up into like Telltale style. It's just going to be multiple games, and they say that each is going to kind of have its own angle.
So like Final Fantasy 13 type.
But
could be, but then it's
that
eventually
changes up
telling all of Final Fantasy VII's story.
I mean, it's still. I don't know if that means they're going to change up the gameplay between them. Like that's not known yet.
They
All we
did say
know
it was a
is-
different experience for every.
That's the phrasing.
So that's weird because I don't know how you can have a through line as well. Like, because Cloud is the through line. Like, you're playing as Cloud the entire time, essentially.
I think Red 13 during the third part, I think it'd be really interesting. It's all from his perspective. Like, I don't know. I don't know how the hell
you're
else you do
serious?
that. No, I'm just joking.
Oh, okay.
I was just trying to think of like characters that don't have much going on, like in the third act.
You talk about reactions to this. Ben told me about the. We were out to eat, and Ben told me about the new gameplay and trailer. I didn't see this when it was announced, and so I experienced it in the worst way possible, which is to look on my phone without audio. But I'm happy that I did that.
And I was screaming at you because you were like, "It's fine." Like, you need to listen to the music.
Because I was able to take it in, and I realized, like, without seeing it, and I watched it again later.
Okay,
on
thank you.
My TV, it was a nicer experience with music, and like it's playing that incredible what is it? I can't remember what it's called, but like basically the intro, some of the first music you hear in Final Fantasy VII, and like that carried it the rest of the way for me to get really exciting. But that's a kind of a false way to get that. I think sometimes you don't always earn that. From what I saw, without having that swell of nostalgia from the music,
right?
Super good looking game. I think that like their treatment for like Barrett looks cool
For sure.
All the character models and design, like they're going for that Advent Children look still, and like it still looks super good. Seeing Midgar realized that way is awesome. I mean, I'm wondering what the battle system's going to be like. It looks kind of Final Fantasy 13-y, where like they're running around the field and you're seeing numbers fly up.
It could be like Final Fantasy 15-ish, where it's actually like you're in the field and you're just like doing your attacks right there.
They said, Kitase, the producer and director of Final Fantasy VII back in the day, he said that it's not entirely action-based, that there's still some active time
And that makes me
I
think
hope
of
so.
13.
elements to it. Yeah? Could
Yeah,
be.
because and 13's battle system was like one of the best parts of the game. Hell, I'll say besides like the visuals, I think it was the best part of the
It
game.
took me a
by
long
lot.
time to warm up to that, but I would agree that I really enjoyed it like near the end of the.
Yeah.
But my
that
money's
game.
on like direct control. I do think it's going to be more like 15.
Yeah, and maybe it's somewhere in between, but like I'm assuming that you're still waiting on cooldowns and stuff like that. But because like that's, I think even 15 works on that level to some degree. You're still waiting for cooldowns and stuff. I don't, from what I played of episode Duskay or whatever, didn't love Final Fantasy 15. Like what's being laid down there so far, I'm not in love with.
Sure.
So basically the moves, and I really didn't like Final Fantasy 13 too. I really didn't like that.
But let's focus on 7.
But here's the thing is like you look at like the moves that Square has been making with their battle systems lately, and just knowing that like, hey, it's not exactly what we had for 7 here. I think that there is some baked in worry there for me.
Sure.
And that trailer didn't like dissolve that, but I am still excited. I'm optimistic about it. I think that Square knows how important this is. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's set up to fail in that it can't be everything to everybody.
Right.
It's just not how that works. But I'm excited.
I'm happy that my prediction that we made during the E3 episode that the game's coming out in 2020 will now hold true because Part 3 will certainly not come out until 2020.
I am
so
not.
it's all good.
I'm so bummed out about that statement where it's just like we just couldn't release everything we wanted to do in one disc. You know what I mean? Like it's just too much going on here.
But with
Like,
that level of
we couldn't
fidelity,
do
like
that.
I understand. Like if they're-
Do you? Because I'm not a developer. I don't know. Like people find ways to pull this off. You know, like look at Witcher 3. Like look at Metal Gear Solid. Look at like all these huge games that we're playing. Like there's ways to do this. I don't think we could just buy into what they're selling us for their their release model.
I mean, Final Fantasy VII would never be a multi-disc game.
That is true. That is a good point. But I'm saying is that like that's not the same technology anymore.
yeah,
No, but I'm saying like they could just hold until it's done and then release it on multiple discs if that's really the problem.
I mean, I'm with you, Brian. I want to play this game as one thing. I don't know anyone that's I can't think of a single person I've ever talked to that after the dust settles in a game said, thank God that was episodic.
Right.
Like no
100%.
one ever said that. But what you get to do is strike while the iron is hot when people are still excited about it. Get something out there before enthusiasm starts to dissipate a little bit. And I guess I'm bummed out that it's episodic.
And knowing the way
I'm standing with everybody else. That's not a statement of the eventual quality of that game, but like I wish it was coming out all at once.
and knowing the way that like Final Fantasy games are developed, like we could not see a second episode for like a year or two or even longer than that.
I'm
Like,
guessing it's at least going to be 2 years.
like we could be like, all right, I'm through Act 1 of Final Fantasy VII. I'm excited to see what happens next, and then
And if you
see you in 2 years.
And if you think about the like how important momentum is for playing almost any RPG, and what's happened when you've played like, oh man, I just beat Final Fantasy 8. I'm going to go right into 9. I can't wait. You get like 10, 12 hours in, and then something else comes out. You get a little burnt out, and you try to go back to that even a month later. Like, oh, where was I in the in the story? What are these systems again?
Yep.
Who were my main characters? What was I leveling?
But I mean, it's not going to be like if they do say it's going to be what was the phrasing? A different
experience.
experience. I don't think it's like you're going to be picking up exactly where you were left off. I think they are going to be complete. And maybe
But that's-
just my nostalgia is clouding me,
story.
but I am totally
But that's
on board
tricky
for this.
too, because the other part of especially JRPGs is this constant build of all of your characters.
Right.
And so if that's cut up, then I'm wondering if you're going to feel that crazy empowerment by the end of the game that you're building up from the beginning. I don't know what carries over. We're working with limited information here, but like I have some worries about it. I'm hoping that I'm proven wrong.
I would imagine, my guess would be that they would switch up the main characters. But again, if Cloud's starting it out, I don't know who the hell else you switch to. Like, well, actually, you do play as Tifa when Cloud falls in the live stream during that section. So maybe like Tifa for part 2, and then part 3, Sephiroth.
But at a certain point, then we're getting a completely different game, and it's not a remake.
That's fine. I'm ready for a new experience.
I am too, but like, just I'm open to that too. But I wonder how many like fans are down for that as well. I don't know.
I understand that they could package it into one thing. And again, it's like if you really want that full experience, you are more than welcome to wait until 2025 and play this whole thing until then. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt at this point. I am excited for this thing still.
Chapter 2, just that turn-based strategy thing on the mountain. I'm saying
Fort
it right
Condor?
now. Yep, that's it.
That piece of turd. I just love that in the year 2015, the trailer at PSX that got a lot of buzz, at least on Twitter when the press conference was going on, it stars Jesse and Wedge from Avalanche. Like, of all the characters to be like the stars of this show, I love that as an adult, I get to watch a trailer starring Jesse and Wedge.
I think that means people aren't being left behind, which that's at least a cool sign for fans.
Yeah, absolutely. And we should point out a couple of quick notes. It is being co-developed by CyberConnect 2, Azura's Wrath people, Tail Concerto for PS1 if you want to go back in the day.
They made some solid Naruto games.
Yeah, for sure. It's an interesting co-development there. And then also in an interview, Katase said that the cross-dressing scene in Midgar is in.
That's great.
That is totally going to happen. So I'm very excited to see how they pull off all this. But that trailer, I'm absolutely in love with.
I'm excited.
All right, we're all cautiously optimistic, except for Javy, who has just slowly been backing away from his mic this entire time.
I've only played one Final Fantasy game, and that was enough for me.
Which one?
10.
10's my favorite.
Yeah, like
but that's just because that was the first one I ever played.
Yeah, I finished it, and I said, I'm good. I never need to play another one of these ever again. No, that's a lie.
And that is definitely...
I've played most of 9 and thought that was cool.
I think that 10 has the best turn-based strategy system of all of the Final Fantasies.
Yeah,
I do
in my
too.
opinion. So if you didn't fall in love with that, like I don't think it's going to mechanically get much more satisfying,
But
in my opinion.
At the same time, like they've slowly been moving away from that turn-based style. Like 13 is I mean, it's still like ATB, but
Yeah.
like it's a completely different
They
battle
have been
system.
moving away
and-
from it towards something many consider worse.
So
But
you seem
but
to.
if he does like turn-based, maybe that's
maybe
the way
that'll
he'd
be
like
his
it.
jam.
It's interesting to be like, yeah, I played 9 and 9, thought it was awesome. Played 10, theoretically enjoyed it if you finished it, and yet had no interest to keep going with any other ones.
That's just because I'm not into JRPGs that much.
All right,
Also,
each their own.
I want to clarify that my reaction comes from a place of love. I really love the Final Fantasy series,
Right.
and I want it to be super good all the time.
So, man, we
Yeah.
hear you, we feel you. You guys want to move on to emails?
Yeah, we're gonna swap out Shea. We're gonna get Ben Reeves in.
Ben Reeves.
for emails and for our final segment, which is gonna be going over the Game Awards. So
That's it. Stay tuned for
tuned.
that.
welcome back to the Game Informer Show. We have a bunch of emails here. We still have JV.
Hi.
Hi, thanks for coming back. You survived the first segment.
I know, I'm still alive.
That's great.
Let's see if my luck continues.
Yeah, and speaking of luck, Brian Shea's ran out, and now we are lucky enough to have Ben Reeves.
I just got done taking some selfies in front of my
Oh, yeah, I noticed
stash of Mario figures. Yeah.
you got a fun haircut and
Yeah,
stuff too, so
you
you're
know.
selfie ready.
This
First
is my
First email comes from Clinton. Hey guys, huge fan here. I've been a reader for many years and have watched your video content since the days of The Wonderful Misadventures of Reiner and Phil before Test Chamber or
Wow,
Replay.
the full name.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's Phil Kohler now of Polygon. That was him and Reiner's old program.
Not
there.
before replay, technically, but
Yeah.
we appreciate his viewership.
My question is, what are some of your favorite unlockables in games for completing difficult challenges? Oh, by the way, podcast@gameinformer.com. You should send your emails to podcast@gameinformer.com.
not Podcot.
Podcast.
Podcast.
Podcast is a totally different email. It's really volatile.
We should get on that, though.
Yeah, I totally forgot to say that at the top. But okay, favorite unlockables in games for completing difficult challenges. I feel like many developers now think an achievement or trophy is good enough of an award and don't give the player something tangible. But I miss the days when achievements didn't replace actual rewards. Favorites of mine would have to be the Foam Finger for beating Dead Space 2 on hardcore mode, the rare armor sets in Halo 3, the black and white Yoshis in Yoshi's Story, among others I can't remember right now. What about you guys, Clinton?
Well, Mr. Clinton, I mean, there's like the tuxedo suit or the
yeah.
bandana in Metal Gear is solid. And then they made me think
Stealth
of
camo.
Ground Zeroes. I'm still upset that I haven't gone back to get that polygonal snake.
Yeah.
Because especially after playing so much of Phantom Pain, I bet I could just mop it up, Tim.
That's right.
With Ground Zeroes if I went back to that thing. So I really want to do that and just nail all those
Does that
little
carry
trials.
over to the?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can play Political Snake and Phantom Pain, and I feel like an asshat for not doing that to begin with.
We're talking about how empowering it might be to go back to Ground Zeroes, yeah, after playing all the Phantom Pain, and it should probably just be a cakewalk.
Would it be though? Because you wouldn't have all of your tools. I feel like that's why you felt.
It's
so
true, but I
empowered.
felt just so out of my element with the controls, the new controls back then when I played it. And so I
Right.
think just being so intimately aware of all the controls would be fun to go back
Yeah.
to it.
It's really weird because you can technically unlock Kojima twice.
That's
Right.
true.
Yeah, it's like you can get him from Ground Zeroes and then get him in Phantom Pain in a side mission. So you just have clone
That's right.
on your team.
Two Koshimas.
Well, in terms of unlockables, he mentioned some of the Mario ones, but was it Mario 64 where you could get to the top and like Yoshi was up there?
Give you like 99 lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember playing that for a long time and like trying to get the last star. And I was so excited because I knew Yoshi was up there, and I thought that would unlock for the game, and then I could
Oh,
play
yeah.
Yoshi.
Oh no.
And I was like so excited when it happened, and then so disappointed.
Do you remember what the last star that hung you up was?
No,
Okay.
not at all.
I
remember not liking the penguin stuff, but
Okay.
I like Rare's first-person shooter
penguin
stuff,
stars.
like GoldenEye and Perfect Dark. How you have to like
cheats.
beat certain time limits to unlock cheats and whatnot.
Yeah.
like that's really fun.
Those challenges are super fun to go through in
And
Perfect
then,
Dark. Yeah.
then there's the moment you realize that like, oh, I can't like try to beeline through the facility to get invincibility and use that cheat to get all the other cheats. Like it's not how it works. I'm like, damn it. Safeguards.
I remember Vice City too. Like I really liked collecting all those packages. They had like 100 packages, and I thought that was a good unlock in terms of like every 10 you got a reward, like an infinite missile launcher at your base, or like if you got 100 or something, you got a helicopter.
Oh, and just like having like a reliable like flak jacket or something like that was
yeah,
huge.
it was
for
always
those games.
there. Yeah,
I think
Especially
mine
back then.
always came back to like usually it would be the Resident Evil series for like beating it in a certain amount of time, and you get like an infinite like Magnum or something like that, or rocket launcher, or Resident Evil 4 had the Chicago typewriter, so you could be dressed up as Leon as like a 1920s 30s gangster with the Chicago typewriter, which you could like level up so that it killed everything in one hit. Or the elephant gun was awesome in that.
Where's the elephant gun? I don't think I ever
elephant
got
gun
that.
was just like basically a big magnum, and you could one-shot everything.
It just looked like the Joker's gun from the first Batman movie.
Think
oh my
bigger.
lord!
So anyway, what's happened?
That's the noise it made.
An elephant?
Yeah.
You want to try one more time? All right, Clinton, thank you. That was a good one. Moving on to Justin from Lakeville. Hey guys, love the show. Get a kick out of hearing one of my questions on the show, and we'll keep writing until I get that mystery prize. Tim's sweaty rock climbing socks.
No,
does he know?
this time it's Javy's eyebrows.
Oh,
He's got too many.
I do have too many.
broken frying pan or Fusion Frenzy promotional material. Anyways, a question from a recent podcast made me think about how I have long wanted a game that took place in the Midwest, since I have lived my entire life in Minnesota. I think the Midwest is a unique area that is almost completely untapped in video games. It seems that game studios assume that the only interesting environments for games must be the islands and big cities on the east and west coast. So here's the actual part of my question, the actual question part of my question. Do you think I am just completely biased, or could a Fallout/GTA type game work in Minnesota, featuring enough world that allowed for players, bigger cities like Minneapolis or Chicago, as well as suburbs, and on out to farmland and forests and plains? We have so much diversity of environments. I feel like it would be cool. Anyway, keep up the good work. Justin from Lakeville.
I think he should go play a puzzle agent.
Yeah, that's a good
We
game.
talked about this
Fun.
last week. Yeah,
Did
yeah.
you really?
Yeah, we really did. That's what prompted him to write this question, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, it does a great job of
That was
just
actually-
setting the atmosphere of
Yeah.
the Fargo type atmosphere.
that could be.
Yeah, I was actually about to crack wise and say Fargo, a Telltale game series, but Puzzle Agents.
It basically is exactly that.
You know what? I
We're
would
only
like to
about
see.
6 months away from that announcement.
Just David Cage should scrap all of this Detroit. What is it? Become Human or whatever it is.
New Human? I don't know.
I thought it was Become Human.
Detroit.
Maybe it's Become Human. Yeah, yeah.
Something like that. Scrap all that. Just go back to the very beginning of Indigo Prophecy. Okay, you're covering up a crime scene, all right, and trying to get away with it. David Cage, put down your sci-fi novel. You're not putting any of that in here, and just protract that entire thing. Like, just stretch out the covering up a crime thing for an entire game with like choices and stuff like that. It could be amazing. Like Fargo. I just watched season 1, by the way.
Right.
Like, it's really, really good, and I was really skeptical about it as a big Coen Brothers fan and someone who, you know, like Fargo is like Minnesota's movie, right? Basically, it's like if you look at it from the perspective of Lester, it's like, I don't know, or how can I put this? Basically, it reminds me of one of those movies or those dreams, those nightmares you have where you've killed someone accidentally or whatever, and it's just like, I need to get away with this. You know what I mean? I'm in this terrible situation, and like that's ripe for a game.
Absolutely.
I don't know how exactly, but you could do it. Otherwise, this email made me think of GTA 5's intro.
Oh, yeah.
right.
You're in one of the
that's a good
Dakotas, right? Speaking of Fargo.
It's nameless.
Maybe it's both.
yeah.
Right.
I thought that was really cool. I don't know. Maybe that was selfish, though. I don't know if it's just from bias, like he said.
I heard just a rumor from a runner who was out visiting Bethesda Game Studios that the next Elder Scrolls is actually taking place in Lakeville, Minnesota. I don't know if you guys heard that. Yeah.
Okay.
It's going to be Wet and Wild.
Is that right? Speaking of Wet and Wild, like there's some good change of like scenery. Like you could have farmland and stuff. You could have the open plains. Like I think a zombie apocalypse game would do well, like a DayZ type situation. You could have the Twin Cities.
Right.
There's the river there. That's the best endorsement. Is there's the river there.
There's a river, guys.
There's a bunch of nothing and
the
farmlands and stuff, and then you get to like smaller cities like Duluth. But then there's the boundary waters. So your goal could be like, I'm gonna, because it was always my plan is like end up in Canada, northern Canada, where it's so cold that the zombies freeze, but cut through the boundary waters because there's going to be fewer people.
Would you get your ex-girlfriend to help paddle through the boundary waters then?
Oh yeah, because we broke up shortly after a trip to the boundary waters. Are no boundaries sacred in this podcast?
No boundary waters.
Very good, Ben. They call canoes. What do they call it? Marriage counselors or divorce makers? Like it's a nickname.
Something
Like
like that.
if you don't get along with that person and you're on a canoe for an extended period of time, it turns out you're going to find out if you guys are made for each
But
other.
I wonder, because Reeves, you were from Colorado.
Yeah,
So I
I
wonder,
have absolutely no interest in seeing a Midwest game.
right, exactly. But like, there's games like Forza Horizon takes place in
Rising.
Colorado. State of Decay.
Yeah.
Dead Rising.
Resident Evil.
Sure.
yeah.
Sure. Did you,
South
what
Park.
game has given you the biggest thrill out of like a Colorado mountainous setting?
Dead
What
Rising.
game has made you feel the most nostalgic, I guess?
I don't know. I remember being really excited when like Resident Evil was set in I mean, even Raccoon City's a fake town. It was like, oh, it's in Colorado. Like, that's cool. So
You screamed it out your window.
It's cool.
South Park?
Yeah, I was trying to yell. I guess South Park, but that's not. Nothing about that's like nostalgic.
I went to that actual town, by the way, in Colorado. It was the biggest piece of crap.
It was such a
it's
letdown.
so
I remember I
boring.
went at the prime, like maybe it was like South Park season 3 that I was going down to South Park because I have relatives that live in Colorado, and there was just like some cardboard cutouts and stuff like that.
They have like a side of a building crudely painted. There's like a crappy looking old Cartman on it and whatnot.
Yeah.
I think I got a Mr. Hanky t-shirt. And I was like, okay, call it
The
a
best
day.
part, this is show related, but like when they go and like reference things that take place in like Denver or
Right.
or whatever, like the Casa Bonita episode
Exactly,
is the famous one. Like you're like, oh, I recognize that place. That's like a real place that I've been to, and you're like, that's always kind of fun. But yeah, so they should do more of that, and then the fractured butthole is what I'm saying.
You can't say
And
that.
then I'll be really excited.
All right. Well, thanks, Justin from Lakeville. This next one comes from Chandler. A few weeks ago, I wrote a long
Hang
complicated...
on, that made JV laugh.
Yeah, I was just thinking about Chandler Bing.
All his crazy
what?
quips.
Is that right? Come
Wait,
on.
what's this guy's name? Chandler?
What are they up to next? I mean, what is it? That dry sarcasm, you know? I think it's my style.
They were
yeah.
good friends.
That's my
A
Chandler
few weeks ago, I wrote a long, complicated question, and you didn't ask it on the podcast. So this week, I'm going to go with a simple question.
Chandler zinged.
It worked. What are some of the most memorable Game of the Year discussion moments Game Informer has had? I'm really curious about JV's perspective on
You
this.
don't wanna-
I don't know when you have these discussions, but if you haven't already had it, will you stream/record your Game of the Year discussion, Chandler?
We usually have them in July.
Thanks, Chandler. Thanks a
I kinda
lot.
missed
Yeah.
it.
Great question. To start out with the second half.
Yeah, we have them in July. We can take care of it good and early.
Yeah, just get it done.
Kick our feet up by the end of the end of the year.
I could get used to this.
That's right.
Yeah.
City Skylines it is. But recording it is tricky. I would love the idea. We've talked about it a couple of times. It gets tough just because we have a rather large staff.
So many editors.
And also like everyone's so busy and out of the office so much that it usually like the meetings are kind of shorter and then we have multiple. And so it's
There's always one massive one.
They're sort of fractured, but
that's the
they're
thing.
whole if you take them all together.
that's the problem is it's just a little bit all over the place. And so a combination of like just the audio and how to film everybody and then also just having it like, oh, bits and pieces here, but then we kind of get a rough idea of the list ahead of time with a couple editors. And so it's not like this like cohesive package of like, we're going to go into a room when we leave, there's one victor, you know?
But if you do want a little bit of a sense of like our top 50 discussions and vying for games and playing them to check them out, like over Thanksgiving, we put up our fight for the top 50. And, you know, there's games like Star Wars Battlefront. Does this deserve to be anywhere on the top 50? Or Soma, games like that. So I'd recommend checking those out. Also, you know, beginning of next year, we'll be posting a bunch of stuff about our games of the year. So stay tuned. We have stuff for that coming. But
we're about to dig into it. I don't know if we're allowed to say that or not.
it's pretty soon.
yeah, it's happening today when the podcast is posted.
Yeah, so that's exciting. But for me, two examples stand out. One last year was a knockdown, drag out, like super slobber knocker. Like it was between Dragon Age Inquisition and Shadow of Mordor, and you could argue about 2014 being not. There wasn't amazing choices. There wasn't amazing like standout choices last year, so I think that made the conversation even harder.
Right. I wasn't there for last year's Game of
No?
the Year stuff. Like
See,
the
we
top
could've used
50.
you.
I know.
Who would you have voted for, though?
I didn't play Dragon Age, but I really like Mordor, so probably.
Okay, we could have used you.
But even pushing for Mordor Game of the Year, I would feel a little bit uneasy about that. Like it didn't blow me away that much. I had a good time with it, but to be like, that's my Game of the Year.
I think that was
don't
the
know.
argument. Is everybody was like, "Well, we feel we liked these games, but nothing was like stand out enough to like the previous year." Before
Well,
that,
yeah.
Well, I don't know if that was your other example.
That was my other example.
Yeah, it was amazing because we went around the room and just voted like, "What's yours?" And then I would say most. If
It was
not
like
all,
90% people's, like-
said Last of Us.
It was down to like I don't know, like BioShock Infinite and Last of Us.
Yeah, Joe was like, BioShock Infinite just for the sake of something. I would go BioShock Infinite, but then everyone else was like Last of Us. I'm like, okay, put
Yeah.
a stamp on it. Let's go.
I think Infinite might have been like Joe's personal game of the year or whatever,
right.
but it was like such a clean.
It just
win.
wasn't even an argument.
Yeah.
It was almost no discussion.
And there was something really cool about experiencing that. But yeah, so that was a good question.
The other year that stands out in my mind is
Oh.
the year that we argued XCOM, Mass Effect 3. And it was,
I don't recall that
it was
one. Isn't it?
Similar to
was
last
ugly.
year's, although it was almost uglier because I feel like both of those games stand out a little bit more than, say, Mordor and
Yeah.
whatever
they're
that other
both, the quality is
piece of
much higher.
crap
Yeah.
game we.
It's interesting, you know. Not everyone on staff is super enthusiastic and really loves games, but if you were ever in doubt and needed reassurance, like those conversations that tend to happen on Game of the Year are just like, oh my god, we all super care about games, maybe to an unhealthy degree.
I always feel like I lose those too because I was on XCOM and I was on Mordor team.
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
both
the
those
kiss of
games-
death.
Pretty much. So whatever game I pick this year is
Yeah.
is destined not to win.
Just choose Splatoon, and then we can let it go down.
JV, I'm excited for you to be part of this. Maybe it'll be the tamest year since we got
It's just going to be in the me in the
blood.
corner with Tales from the Borderlands.
just hanging out.
Yeah, whispering quietly as you guys talk about The Witcher.
Just covering
No, I
Tales.
mean, it has a good chance, JB. It has a good chance.
Earmuffs, Tales from the Borderlands, earmuffs. Okay, next one up is Callum from Ireland. Hi, Tim, Hanson, and company. I'm curious what you guys think about CGI trailers being used to advertise games. Do you think that it is fair that studios use trailers that in many ways have little to do with the actual gameplay or graphics of what they are advertising? Thanks, Callum. P.S. Loving the Hanson stubble. I expect him to be rocking a full beard by New Year's. If you're watching on YouTube,
Oh boy.
you can see Hanson's handsome stubble.
Why are you growing that out?
I feel like everybody
Just for fun?
has to see what their face looks like once in their life, and it's like a good time in my life
Just test
to
it out.
just let your face get ugly. And so I think I'm gonna let it go till Christmas or
Well,
something.
clearly it doesn't look ugly to Callum from
Yeah.
Ireland.
If he got closer, he would be horrified.
You
From a
should move to
distance, it looks
Ireland.
okay.
I agree. I'm horrified right now.
Look at it, JB. Look at it. All right.
Kiss
Anyways,
your
thank
mother
you.
with that beard?
CGI trailers. What do you guys think?
I feel like that's
is
a
it
question
dishonest
from 10
or
years
something?
ago. Does that
Yeah.
happen a lot?
No.
This-
No, I
CG
really like.
trailers?
I think they can do a CGI trailer and have it be pretty honest. Like Dishonored, everything you see in the CGI trailer they showed for Dishonored, you can do in that game, and it looks pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's only dishonest if it's showing it from like a perspective that could be confusing. But if it's like beauty shots and slow-mo of a character walking down a street with some cool music, no one's going to think that's gameplay.
Yeah,
So
I feel like at this point you should just, as a people that love video games and viewers of these trailers, like should just know better by now. You should know what a game looks like and appreciate this as selling you on like the vibe of what this thing is and like trying to be like an art. Like I'm happy that the Dead Island trailer exists. It looked nothing like that game, but that trailer was awesome.
It really was, yeah.
And you know, for Deep Silver specifically, their goal is to get people talking about that game. And that trailer did in a way that I don't think that just something that was truer to what that game was would have done. So I'm happy that that trailer exists. So I guess I'm happy that these exist.
And do you think people saw that trailer and then went and bought the game immediately after that trailer? I mean, they couldn't
No.
because it was an announcement.
I think that
trailer,
there's
but
certainly some people.
only
but
have seen that trailer and then were disappointed when they.
I would hope not.
I wouldn't think so.
I think it just gets it in people's minds that next time they see an article on a website about it, they'll click on it and look at actual gameplay. You know?
I'm actually, in a weird way, more skeptical of like gameplay trailers than CGI trailers because, like, you know, when they show something that's 2 years out, like Watch Dogs, and you're like, oh man, this looks amazing. This is actual gameplay footage, and then you see in the corner alpha, whatever.
Yeah. Bioshock Infinite
Yeah.
had that same thing where they showed that slice of gameplay that wasn't represented in any way in the final.
Yeah.
That the lines there are almost blurrier and more misleading, I think.
right,
So it's still a good question. But
Remember the announced trailer for Tales of the Borderlands? Made that game look so good. And
JV.
Don't hurt me.
JV,
JV, stick
trying
around-
to,
stick
I'm trying
around.
to poke him a little bit. And
for
see
the record, JV, I
when
like
his
Tales from the
teeth there.
Borderlands.
I haven't played it.
I will kind of defend it with you. Not to that degree, but
smile
it
and
was a
nod,
fine
like,
time.
Hey, it's an okay game.
I want to give a shout out here to Ben from Marseille, France, whose question basically was, do you think there is a bright side to breaking up larger JRPGs into episodes given the Final Fantasy VII
okay. That's a
good
conversation? So we talked it to death already.
No,
Do you
but
wanna-
Reeves,
you wanna
go
give-
on for 15 minutes
No,
first.
like, do you want to give, you want to sound off on it quick, Reeves, to give...
I need other people's opinions before I can
Okay.
regurgitate.
I was
them,
I'm
but-
very skeptical about it.
in particularly in reference to like Final Fantasy, just feels like the wrong way to go since that game already existed.
Right.
Are you guys just? Am I parroting what you guys are?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So, but for another RPG, I'd like to see it done. I'd like to see somebody try it because I haven't seen too many like episodic RPGs done yet.
Yeah, is someone.
But something about the nature of an RPG feels like something you would want to like just keep going
Right.
with. So that feels like it wouldn't quite work in my head. So I think somebody needs to prove it first.
Yeah, as someone who's apathetic about the vast majority of JRPGs, I kind of interested to see if it would work as an episodic, just as like someone who's like, okay, I have no interest in this genre, but I'll see this.
Yeah, I mean, with your experience from Tales from the Borderlands, like clearly you're at least on board with some episodic games, and maybe like the episodic format would be able to like prevent you from getting burnout or something.
Yeah, because actually I hate Borderlands. Like, I really do not like Borderlands.
But you like the world, clearly.
And you love Tales.
Yeah, I like Tales.
Yeah, okay.
So when that came out, I was like, you know what? I like Telltale. I'll give them a chance. Because it's like, what, $5 an episode? So yeah, and I ended up loving it.
There's one thing I want to point to with this, which is I love Final Fantasy IV, and then they released Final Fantasy IV the after years, even as a huge bundle. The way that was segmented, like I started playing it, and I think I beat an episode, and then I just like lost steam once it was switching gears and stuff like that. So I guess that failed to. It wasn't an amazing game either. So
and personally, I'm not watching Star Wars until Episode 9's out, so I can see all of them.
Me too. Me too. Yeah. This next one is from Brandon from Wisconsin. Hello, GI crew. I have a would you rather question for you. Would you rather go to a big family get together with Dan Tack, who is full of emotional expressions?
Yes, that one.
Or spend a day with Joe Juba playing NBA 16, who apparently can't stay awake for a podcast that is talking about it. Thanks and keep up the great work, Brandon.
Dan Tech.
I'd rather.
Oh, I would love to see Dantech's family.
Just as an experience.
I imagine it would kind of be like the Clumps, just like everyone looks exactly like Dantech, just like Dantech with a wig, Granny Dantech,
Little baby Dan Tack.
That's right.
With stubble. So you're the entire day. Like, let's say it's Christmas Day. You're getting up like, oh, it's a drive, but we got to get up at 6 a.m., 2-hour drive to visit his family, starting at 8 a.m., kicks off. You're there the entire day. You're even spending the night because it snowed too much that night. You got
There's no roof on the house.
And the house looks like a giant version of Dantech's face, kind of like Mario's Mario Galaxy 2.
It's in
ship.
Nazareth.
But the question is,
dog looks like Dantech.
how much?
Really?
How much red wine is available?
It's sparkling grape juice.
The label has Dantech's face
I
on it,
would,
obviously.
just for the sake of the novelty in the story, because I would never stop talking about it. I would send out a tweet every day just to tell another bit of that story, episodically tell the story of Dantech's family encounter
Okay.
And they want you to brush your teeth after every bite you take.
of the sparkling.
And
grape
it's
juice.
only slices of oranges that you're
It's
eating.
gelatinous sparkling grape juice.
I would probably go with Juba, probably just because
Really?
I don't get to hang out with Joe enough. And
And you've got to see that Spike Lee joint.
yeah, that's right. JV, the tack route.
Yeah, Dan
yeah.
Tack.
Based on your extensive knowledge of the staff so far.
Totally.
Okay.
I guess you sit
Well,
next to Joe.
I live next to Joe,
yeah.
so
You
I
live
guess
next
that-
to him now. I didn't know that.
Yeah. For perspective, JV is sandwiched between Joe Juba and Brian Shea. So that's
In the office.
in the office
So that's the party room.
right now. If you're not watching on YouTube,
And Dan's Dan Tech's long distance, so
He is.
it'd be more interesting. I
he's
think.
emotionally long distance too, even if you sit next to him. Next one is from Riley from Audio Extra.
Oh, that's
Pennsylvania?
The best state.
Is that a? Are
Yeah, you've never heard of that?
you serious?
Yeah, it's like the third biggest town in Pennsylvania. I don't know.
It's whatever.
You should've
Maybe it's
kept
just.
going.
It's probably just a. It's probably a username.
That's where Dantech's from.
all right.
Audio Extra Pennsylvania.
Extra. All right, this one's from Riley. Hi, GI team. Love the podcast. You mentioned Infamous on last week's episode, and it made me think of all the fun I had with 1 and 2. Second can eat a big bag of blank.
I assume he's talking
what?
I think
Second Son?
Second Son, yeah.
What is
sorry.
wrong?
It was
Second
not
Son's a
fine.
totally fine game.
It
It's
was
not
fine.
maybe not as great as the first two, but it's a solid game. Riley, figure it out. While playing Infamous and navigating around the cities, I would listen to music on my stereo. In particular, the album Imago from the Butterfly Effect again and again. I'm not familiar with this band.
That's the Butterfly Effect soundtrack.
Since then, open world games like The Witcher 3, I listen to podcasts to keep me going on the long walks through the monster infested wilderness. Click in L2 and I believe that you'll summon Roach a couple times. Whoa, Roach! This enhanced the play through for me, as I was wondering if you listen to music or podcasts while you play games. If yes, please elaborate. Regards, Riley.
I don't do that, but I've heard several people do that for the latest Assassin's Creed for some reason.
I mean, I think the latest Assassin's Creed is good because you can just go on, just try to conquer parts of London and stay away from the story. So there's not a lot that makes you pause a podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I listen to podcasts whenever I can. in life.
For perspective, when Ben and I are going on like trips, like let's say our most recent trip to From Software for Dark Souls 3, the moment like I close the door in the bathroom or something, it's immediately the moment it clicks, it's just like yeah, and it's just like, oh wait, what's going on? Does he have he's listening to his podcast again. The moment that he's listening to podcasts. If he doesn't have his big headphones in while he's like doing video editing at his desk, you'll I can just yell across the room to Ben, like, no, because he has the smaller headphones in. He's listening to a
so
podcast
annoying
now.
to have those. You can't tell if he's like listening.
Oh,
to
for context, Ben Reeves has the best noise canceling earbuds of all time and can't hear anybody ever.
And it's the worst because he's a standing desk, so I can just see the top of his dumb head. And so every day I'll say, hey, Reeves, because I got to ask him something or ask him to do something or something. And then he just does not respond in any way. And then I have to walk over there and go, Reeves. And then he goes, oh, okay. And then he pulls out his earbuds. When he has headphones and headsets that he could wear, that would sound better, and then people could tell.
When he pulls out the earbuds, you can hear like the faint whistling of an earlock situation.
Sorry, were you talking to me? I
had him in
his earbuds underneath that.
But anyway, I remember a while back I read an article. I believe it was a Kotaku article about like someone wrote that they were just done with music and video. Like their stance was extreme. Like, I'm done with music and video games. I'm going to play with it off all the time because I listen to podcasts and multitask because I'm a busy guy. That rubbed me the wrong way because I'm like, no, like Red Dead has amazing music in moments and stuff like that.
No, but Red Dead.
And so I was like really averse, but I slowly shifted over. I can't remember what game it was. It might have been something like Second Son, where I started listening to podcasts while playing open world games specifically, or Destiny's a good one if you're not grouped up. And yeah, like Syndicate, like Assassin's Creed Syndicate's a good example. Fallout's a good example. Witcher was a great example.
Whenever there weren't story stuff, wasn't story stuff happening, like in Metal Gear, I would play. Like if I'm just like taking out a base slowly, just play some.
Another great example.
I tried to do it with like Halo recently, but there's just enough like chatter and stuff happening throughout the levels that I felt like I was stopping.
It's so rude of those designers.
Come on, guys, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Why are you trying to tell me a story?
I listened to podcasts through most of Tales from the Borderlands. I don't know about you guys.
That sounds pretty good.
Her story was pretty much just all podcasts the whole time.
You're just searching video games, whatever keywords they say in the podcast.
It took me 4 weeks to finally pick them.
Those are our emails for this week. So what did you like? Were there any that stood out to you guys?
The last one I liked, but I think we've been asked that before.
Right.
First one I liked, but we talked about all that stuff last week as well.
Unlockables?
No, I'm sorry. The Midwest gaming one.
Oh, okay. Because Unlockables was
I like Unlockables. How do you guys feel?
What was about the Paris one? Was that the? Or not the Paris
that was the one that we had already answered.
What was the one that was about RPGs?
That was Ben from Marcel France.
Are we seriously not going with the Dan Tack?
Joe one? That's a great point. All right, Dan Tack Joe.
Okay. All right, that's Brandon from Wisconsin for asking whether we'd like to spend a day with Dan Tack and his entire family or playing a basketball video game with
That's
Joe
what we need
Juba.
more of. We need more silly.
But these were good questions. Please keep them rolling. If you have
Bring
a question or an email, send it to podcast@GameInformer.com. We'll be sending Brandon a little thank you in the mail. So otherwise, we have plugs. Anything on the website that you want to point people towards before we go to the last segment?
It's weird to point to it because it's on the website, but it's in the podcast feed that you might be listening to it here. But I liked my chat that went up yesterday with Jason Rubin, talking about Jason Rubin of Oculus. So talking about the challenges, the future of VR. But even if you aren't interested in that, he's an incredibly important figure in the industry, both for his development days and also president of THQ, yada yada yada. Yeah. And so I talked to him a little bit about the early days of developing Crash, trying to get nitty gritty on some of the design decisions, and it was a satisfying conversation for me personally. So if you skip that one in the feed, go back and check it out.
Awesome.
All right. Guys, for those of you who are playing Rainbow Six, I recently did a 30 tips that'll help keep you alive, even if you're terrible at the game.
You won't believe number 22.
Yeah, exactly. It'll blow your mind. So go check that out if you're playing Rainbow Six and you need help.
Cool. I don't need help with that. I was going to mention there was the PlayStation X. That's not what they call it.
PSX?
The PSX that happened this weekend. And Brian and Kim were out there, and I thought they did some pretty good coverage of stuff. Like the indie games of PSX, I think is always, we do those indie games list for these shows, and I think they're always rated a little bit.
Okay.
But there's some great games in there, and I think it's worth going in and checking those out.
Awesome. We got the Beyond Good and Evil Super Replay going on. So check in on that. It's kind of sporadically going up as we have time to record it. It's Reiner spearheading that one. But otherwise, please check out a petition I started on change.org to get Newt Gunray in Disney Infinity 3.0. So change.org, Newt Gunray. Thank you.
Great. Fantastic. All right, well, let's talk about the TGAs coming up next. All right, everybody. So on last Friday, Geoff Keighley hosted the second annual Keighley Awards, the TGAs, the Game Awards. Not to be confused with VGAs, but it's kind of a spiritual successor to Spike TV's VGAs
But a lot of
VGX.
people still call them that.
VGX.
VGX happened one year.
It's always confusing, but the Game Awards. It's very clear. So he promised like 10 announcements. Do you guys want to go over the announcements and then get to like the actual rewards? And awards and all that stuff?
We're gonna go over our predictions for what we thought was gonna be rewarded, and then what the actual winners are. But yeah, let's. There's some cool news that came out of it. It wasn't like an amazing revelatory.
Psychonauts 2. I mean, people say that, but I mean, Psychonauts 2 I consider to be a huge announcement.
I feel like it would have been a bigger deal if it wasn't like crowdfunding. I feel like that.
It's an asterisk.
But I'm amazed at how quickly it's working. Its way
I mean,
up
it's
there.
great that they're getting money.
Also, Marcus, our intern, did an interview with Tim Schafer, the great Tim Schafer. That's on our site. So
I'm sorry,
you can
Plugs
search
is
that out.
done. You can't bring that up.
Can't stop, won't stop. But okay, Psychonauts 2, maybe second for announcement is the lovely Telltale's making a Batman game coming out in 2016. What do you guys think?
Did you just roll your eyes at Telltale making a Batman game
Yes.
when Tales from the Borderlands is like your favorite game?
Do you
this
just
year?
hate Batman that much?
No, what are you going to do with what are you going to do with Batman? Like, what hard moral choices does
You
Batman
won't play
have?
as Batman.
How do they make a story mode out of Borderlands? There's no story in Borderlands.
They've
But
been
they
telling
did, but
Batman
see,
games
like-
for like
No, no,
stories for 80 years. How are they going to come up with a Batman story? I don't know what they're
I'm
gonna
just
do with the
skeptical.
character.
I'm just skeptical.
Skeptical. Well, what was your ideal Batman Telltale game?
I don't have one. I'm kind of tired of that universe.
All right, Ben Reeves, Batnut himself. Who would you choose?
I remember like the next day people were kind of making fun of that idea, but when that announcement happened, I was like, oh, actually, that's kind of a cool big idea. Cool, it was a cool big idea. It was,
God, I love those cool big ideas.
I'm not like I'm cooling on the Telltale stuff. I didn't play Borderlands.
I'm digging on it
I
personally.
didn't play what's the Game of Thrones one, but I
Right.
played like a bunch of the other ones. So, but this might get me back in.
You want to be Commissioner Gordon or what?
I think it would. I mean, I almost feel like you have to do Batman to some degree. It would be fun if they kind of did the GCPD route and like followed some of like the police.
I'm gonna kill
like-
everybody. I'm gonna make Batman finally
I think
murder
that's probably an
everybody.
option.
See what happens.
Or what if it was like
Joker
you
won't
played as the
remember that.
Joker? or
Throw the
something?
penguin off a roof.
I would actually really love that. That's my dream scenario. Is if you're jumping to different perspectives, like you're going from Gordon to Batman. It would be cool to do Joker. One episode's from Joker's perspective or something. That'd be really
They
sweet.
could pull that
That'd be
off.
cool.
I think-
That's
I
what
think
they
they
do
could
in Game
totally
of
do it.
Thrones. You jump from perspective
Yeah,
to
yeah.
perspective.
Right.
I think it's
right.
going to be like a year one type situation where it's like him learning the ropes and
It was-
first
it was-
coming on the scene.
I don't know. So I watched these live, and it was such a twist because like, oh, we got a big game reveal, and Geoff Keighley's like, this one didn't leak. It was just how they announce all games now. Is they announce that they're very proud of the leak, which is fair. But they show the footage, and it's just like paper, and then like drawings start to appear on it, and it was like a drawing of a gun. And I was watching with my friends, and I was like, oh, good Christ, another gun game. Like I was actually like disheartened, like, oh, what is this crap? Some Counter-Strike wannabe. And then like as it went on, it was a genuine shock to be like, oh, Batman from Telltale.
Was it his grappling gun or what?
No, because
Batclaw?
it was like showing like his parents, and I think it was
Oh,
what's the guy that killed his
Joe
parents?
Ice?
Joe
Ice?
Chill.
Chill.
Joe Chill.
Ice
yeah.
Blow.
Yeah, I
Joe
used to
Blow?
see you.
Joe Blow.
And so I am curious to see how they approach it, but I think everybody has a reaction of like, oh wow, Telltale Batman, and then like, oh Jesus, Telltale, come on, cool it guys, because they're also
Joe,
doing,
chill out, man.
They're doing a Marvel game theoretically the same year they're releasing this DC game. Like it's impressive
a
they have
lot.
that breadth, but
It's tough because it's like, if you were going to speculate about development, it just means like if you're people want like that next level Telltale thing. I think people are just like, you guys are talented storytellers. Can you click it over past this formula, please?
Right.
But like when they're stretching themselves that thin, like it just seems impossible to imagine that they're able to put all their to finally deliver that product.
it's the Madden problem.
It's they have like so many properties, which is fun because they have such diversity here, but they're all so similar. It's kind of like their portfolio is very fractured but whole. It's
right. I hear you, Reese.
yeah. I mean, you know what I'm saying. But I'm gonna play.
We got more announcements to go down.
Yeah. Quickly, Palmer Luckey star of the Game Informer new issue on the Year of VR, he came out and announced Rock Band VR.
Next.
Interesting, but then it's like the joy of Rock Band is playing with other people. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah, it's
that was
fine.
weird.
It seems strange.
It's weird.
video-
I'm curious about it in something that's trying to sell the experience of being in a rock band. Like, cool, but
That video was way too long. Like, there was trying to be funny for a little too long.
Right.
Like, of them
Yes.
doing this like rock band stuff.
Yeah, totally agree. A video that went on, I think the perfect amount of time is they gave the Industry Icon Award to Westwood, and they had a really, really nice video
I thought that was good, yeah.
about the history of Westwood, and it was kind of funny because it's like, hey, everybody, remember RTS history? MOBAs wouldn't exist without it. Like, they're trying to like appeal to that MOBA crowd, like, hey, this is important for you history fanatics. But I thought it was really, really well done. They had like Gary Whitta and Jeff Green from back in the day talking about all that stuff. So that was really nice. Outside of that, big announcements, I think that was basically it. There's some other news stories, but I think we'll hit that in the actual awards.
Well, the Michonne Telltale thing had been leaked before.
Walking Dead
Right.
spinoff.
Another
That
Telltale
was
game.
new, but it's kind of overshadowed by Batman 11.
Yeah, for sure. But overall, I mean, people love to make fun of these awards, especially years ago when it was a little bit less classy, but I think they did a great job. Reeves, I don't know if you had a take on this.
No, I thought they did fine. I'm like, they were, because we were covering it with like a bunch of other people and we're kind of making fun a little bit, as you do. But I feel like overall, it was way better than previous years. I think last year was good
It's
too.
trending
I
in
think-
the right direction.
I think last year they kind of had that big Zelda announcement, which you
Right.
mentioned, which kind of was like the exclamation point at the end of the awards, which really helped people remember that show well. And this year didn't have that
Right.
explanation point. But way better than like the really stupid goofiness of years past.
And also, there's such a weird vibe to it. Like, I remember I was there last year and I was really struck by how empty the theater was. In the beginning of this year, you could see like there's a lot of empty seats in there. Like, I don't know why they aren't getting the tickets out. Maybe they just don't want to deal with the hassle with all those industry people there. But Geoff Keighley always just seems a little bit like bummed out during the recording of it. And it struck me as just like, what?
He's a subdued guy.
I guess so. He's always a little bit hollow, which is why it was especially weird during like his little
Hollow.
That's right. He's a hollow soul. But especially during like the segment where there's like a tribute to Iwata, where it's like, all right, everybody get somber for a little while and let's pay our respects. It's very nicely done.
Okay. But speaking of exclamation points, Reeves, we have some of the news that we're going to get to through these awards. Should we go down our predictions, kind of working up towards Game of the Year?
Sure.
So we're going to start with our predictions. So to give this a bit of a disclaimer, this is not like what we think is like, the first category is best art direction. This isn't like what Game Informer would award the best art direction, but like kind of through the lens of what the VGAs were and then now the Game Awards in their second year, just kind of what we think that they go for. Like predicting the Oscars, kind of. It may not be your favorite, but you guess what you think the best film is going to be.
Sure.
So the nominees were Batman Arkham Knight, Bloodborne, Metal Gear 5, Ori and the Blind Forest, and The Witcher 3. Our prediction was Bloodborne. A lot of that came from we didn't see Bloodborne as being a real slam dunk for other categories and thinking that it was that they wanted to give it a nod in some direction. But it actually went to
Ori and the Blind Forest.
well-deserved.
Yeah, but it was amazing. I think Bloodborne was the biggest snub throughout the entire show. It didn't win anything. But what was weird about this one, it was actually announced by Phil Spencer. He was up there, so like as he's reading the categories, like Bloodborne seems like the shoe in here. It's going to be weird to have him talking about this PlayStation game and giving it this award. But like, oh no, of course it's the Microsoft game or the Blind Forest.
I mean, Ori and the Blind Forest is gorgeous and
Yeah.
like such a cool look, and compared to like Miyazaki films, which is an amazing like compliment. But Bloodborne was just, it looked really good and it nailed that like gothic Lovecraftian aesthetic, like in a way that no other game I feel like has.
Yeah, because a lot of games try to do that,
Yeah.
and they just fail miserably.
Yeah.
But Bloodborne really got it.
In a way that was impeccable. But
Personally, I thought it was kind of like a 13-year-old goth guy just going to a coffin store.
going to a Costco and getting bulk sales on coffins and buckets of blood.
Whatever that guy said in last
Eyeballs,
week's
That's right.
email.
tentacles. Yeah.
So, do you
All right.
guys disagree with the choice then? Because I feel like Ori and the Blind Forest is probably a good call.
It's a good call if you don't go with Bloodborne, in my opinion. But I really like Bloodborne.
You like
so-
Bloodborne.
I still need to play Ori. I've heard it's
Yeah,
fantastic.
you should.
It's so hard.
It's a
It
good
is.
weekend
It's good.
game. You should not. Yeah. Okay. Next up is best sports/racing game. Nominees were FIFA 16, Forza Motorsport 6, NBA 2K16, Pro Evo Soccer 2016, and Rocket League.
Somewhere upstairs, Joe Juba just fell asleep.
Oh my God, thud. So hopefully he wasn't holding a cup of coffee or
gosh.
something. Jeez. Our prediction was Rocket League.
And the winner was Rocket League.
Oh, yeah.
Clearly the best sports game of the year. No question about it.
What was the one with the crazy Spike Lee stuff?
It's NBA 2K16.
Was that nominated?
Yeah, it was.
it's on
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Okay, so that one was. I mean, do you just think of the reach of that game? Like, it was free on PS Plus, and it's such a broad appeal. And yeah, that was an easy choice for me. I feel like
Even
considering it's
people were playing it.
Yes, exactly. It's like specially selected jurors that they have, like from the industry, that choose these things. I'm like, the entire industry was talking about Rocket League.
And the odds that that entire jury would be really into basketball, pretty slim, so it's tough.
Another year they might have been like FIFA. I guess FIFA's. People talk about that, right?
Yeah.
Next up is Best Fighting Game. The nominees were, and this was the only one category that had 4 instead of 5 because it was a light year for fighting games, as it is most years. But the nominees: Guilty Gear Xrd Sign, Mortal Kombat X, Rise of Incarnates, and Rising Thunder. Which I thought Rising Thunder was early access.
It's like pre-alpha.
that
That's a
counts.
weird one.
That's
yeah,
weird.
Anyway, our prediction was Mortal Kombat X.
And then the winner was Mortal Kombat X.
Yeah, so that one was a
Right.
pretty easy one.
Another one for us.
Next up is Best Action Adventure. I want to preface this. I looked back at the VGAs, and it was interesting. In years where something like Red Dead Redemption or Uncharted would win Best Game of the Year, there was also this Action Adventure category. And the way Game Informer works is like, we don't have like an open world category or whatever. Like, Red Dead Redemption is an action game, and Uncharted is super an action game, and
So is Metal Gear.
so is Metal Gear and stuff like that. So in most years, like if a game of the year was an action, like if it was, let's say for an example, it was Uncharted 2 or something like that, which I think it was a game of the year. It would also be best action game
Action
generally.
Game of the Year.
If it was Skyrim, it would be best RPG, which was another case with the VGAs. Like the year that Skyrim won best game of the year, it was also best RPG. To inform our decision making on the TGA's best action adventure game, we look back the year that it won Uncharted 2 won game of the year. Best action adventure game was an Assassin's Creed game, which was
It's just weird, a little weird to me.
It's
I know
strange.
other places have done the same thing.
It's
but
sort of
it
strange.
Seems like it should count both ways.
Yeah, I mean, that's just us applying our logic, no fault of like TGAs or anything. It's just trying to apply, again, look into their logic. But anyway, nominees for Best Action Adventure were Assassin's Creed Syndicate, Batman Arkham Knight, Metal Gear Solid 5, Ori and the Blind Forest, and Rise of the Tomb Raider. Our prediction was Metal Gear Solid 5.
Winner is Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, and here to accept the award is Hideo Kojima.
Oh, is that an elephant gun?
So that was
Hideo.
this might have
Hideo.
been the biggest thing that actually came out of the Game Awards.
Oh my gosh.
It was really fascinating. So
Finding out Kojima's still a Konami employee.
well,
I don't know if
not
that's
necessarily.
technically what that meant.
I don't think so.
you
He was
What-
under
how-
contract.
He was theoretically under contract until December, is what the rumor is. But basically, what happened is Kiefer Sutherland was there to accept the award, everyone's favorite big boss, except for Jade Raymond's. Apparently, was it Jade Raymond? Yeah, she was up there later, and she
yeah.
mentioned how much she missed David Hayter, which was
really?
awesome.
Which is I like that.
When like Kiefer sitting front.
So she's
row.
a hater lover, a Kiefer hater.
Well, love her or hate her, yeah, it's just Jade Raymond. But the fascinating part was that Jeff Keighley then said, like, Konami's lawyers informed Hideo Kojima he would not be allowed to attend this show tonight. Just so you know, but we're all rooting for you. Kojima, we wish you could be here. And then he's like, oh, but we have a surprise. And then the lady that plays Quiet sang Quiet's
the
theme.
most boring song in the world.
Oh my God, the most like everyone probably had associative like cringing things. Were just like, God, I'm so tired of hearing this.
It's just constant in that game. Yeah, but it's still a nice little tip of the cap.
That's
But,
cool.
Yeah, and then the interesting part is that somebody tweeted out like, "Oh, Konami wouldn't let Kojima go to the Game Awards. What a pile of D-horse s."
That's pretty good.
And then Kojima retweeted it. Really?
That's great.
Yeah.
good.
It's like it's like the most you've seen Kojima be like, yeah,
Claws out.
right.
That's awesome. Our,
Retweet, claws out.
our justification is just like Kojima's been super close with the TGAs and like good friend of Keighley's, and also it's a really good
It's a
game.
really good game.
Yeah,
you're calling
on its
shenanigans?
own. No, I'm just saying you got to look at what you got, the clues that you got. So next up was a weird one. This is Games for Impact. I looked at the last year's TGAs to get a sense of like, was this there last year? Was it something else?
Games for
It was called
Change.
Games for Change last year.
Right.
So these nominees will give you kind of an idea of I think what that means. I think they're looking for like progressive themes or just think of like progressive themes in video games. The nominees were Sybil, Her Story, Life is Strange, Sunset, and Undertale.
And
Our prediction was Life is Strange.
And the winner is Life is Strange.
Hey,
Jeff Cork just finished that game, and he is madly in love with it.
Yeah, it's people seem to be loving it, and like a part of it is like that they have characters that I don't know. They capture. Why don't you talk about it? I have not played. I've played episode 1. JV's trying to eat his microphone.
Right.
I haven't like Tales from the Borderlands.
I've only played episode 1.
Like
so why do you think it's a qualifier for this category?
It's an interesting angle. I like it's a story that focuses the protagonist is a high school girl, which you don't see too often. So I think that's an interesting angle that probably put it up in this category. There's a lot of female characters in it.
Okay.
Some homosexuality themes are touched upon, but it's not a big driving force or anything throughout the story.
Which I think that's, like to have a character that, to have like the sexuality of a character not be like the driving whole point of that character and become like a stereotype, which it can be mishandled terribly in video games.
I think that's why it was nominated and won, because I was trying to I haven't finished it either, so I was curious, why is this?
It's also got to be a good game.
Well, sure,
so.
but
it's a funky category.
Her story, for example, I'm like, I like that game. It was fun. I was trying to figure out, how is that a game for impact?
Women can be imprisoned too, Reeves.
I don't know.
It's a weird road to go down, but I think Life is Strange is deserving. So
it makes me want to go finish that game.
Yeah, me too. I've only played the first episode, and I didn't dig what I played of it. I appreciated what I played of it, but I wasn't really into it.
Dig it back up and try again.
I got time to change your mind.
I know.
Next category is Best Score / Soundtrack. The nominees are Fallout 4, Halo 5 Guardians, Metal Gear Solid 5, Ori and the Blind Forest, and Witcher 3. Man, Ori, lots of nominations.
Really bumped up.
Our prediction was Metal Gear Solid 5, based on the licensed 80s music, and those games just have such a consistent score.
Yeah, it ended up winning.
It did.
I love the soundtrack to Metal Gear Solid 5. I mean, just going back and watching those trailers alone, or the cassette tapes you get then from the music from the trailers, it's so good. I mean, Sins of Our Fathers is awesome.
Yes.
Was that one they didn't show on the show? They awarded off air?
Yeah, I think so. There are a lot of them that were off
If you think of the licensed music in it is awesome, with just I'm going to totally blow this mission to go after a cassette of She Blinded Me with Science. That's a weird thing. But the note
get that
they started on with Ground Zeroes and Here's to You and stuff like that, just to set a tone, it was awesome.
Also, I cannot help myself. Every time I go on a mission, Metal Gear Solid 5, and I'm at the equipment, loadout commence sequence screen there, I always have to let it wait, because if you wait long enough, then the Peace Walker theme starts.
That's right.
That's the most motivating theme. I love it so much.
That's a good point.
And so I'm not ready to go on a mission until I hear that song.
I actually had a few friends who hadn't played Metal Gear and were kind of on the fence about it because they, got great reviews and whatnot. And I said, well, it's a game where you can kill Soviets while, Kids in America plays in the background.
From your helicopter.
And they're like, they're like, okay, that's
awesome.
While screaming at a horse to poop on a guy's head.
Do it. Poop on his head. Come on, man. We trained for this.
We miss you, hater.
Best mobile / handheld game. Rough year for this too, and it's interesting that they mixed together handheld and mobile. With this year, I feel like you pretty much had to.
Right.
The nominees are Downwell, Fallout Shelter, Lara Croft Go, Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, and Pac-Man 256. Our prediction was Fallout Shelter. Made a huge splash at E3. Yeah. It's probably the one mobile game that people talked about the most. It's riding the coattails of insane Fallout 4 hype. That's what we went with.
But the winner is Lara Croft Go, which makes me feel guilty for not getting around to it. Reeves, you love Everything's Croft.
I liked it a lot, actually.
More than Hitman Go? Because I liked Hitman Go.
Yeah, if you like Hitman Go, then you'll love Lara Croft Go.
It's a good game.
Better game, yeah.
All right.
I hope they keep doing those weird kind of experimental games, at least for them. It's kind of experimental.
Legacy of Kain Go, here we come.
They do a Final Fantasy one would be cool.
Yeah, Deus Ex Go, people have been speculating.
Yeah, that'd probably be the next one.
Life is Strange Go.
Legacy of Kain would be super cool, by the way.
I would play a Deus Ex Go just to hear Adam Jensen go, I didn't ask for this, every time you move him across the board.
Perfect. Oh, CS:GO Go.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one. So
they could run an Indiegogo campaign for.
That's true.
Go.
Pokemon Go. Developer of the Year. The nominees are Bethesda Game Studios, CD Projekt Red, From Software, Kojima Productions, and Nintendo. If you look at all of these, most of these, it's these are developers that released ambitious games that were received pretty well. Mm-hmm. And our prediction was Kojima Productions, because if you layer on the kind of turmoil that studio went through in its nth hour, and just the fact that they ended up making such an awesome game anyway, and focusing on that developer and that game as a swan song and stuff, and just giving a send off to what like Kojima Productions doesn't exist anymore.
Heath Ledger won an Oscar.
Yeah.
But the winner, turns out, is CD Projekt Red.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So we were wrong there.
I mean, an amazing effort from a team. I mean, it's easy to say out of nowhere, but definitely this year is when they're really on the radar for like, holy crap, this team can pull something amazing together. But I really thought that Koji Pro would win it.
And I think just how they've followed up, CD Projekt has followed up Witcher with like consistent downloads and updates and some free content. And
their
stuff,
support
I
is
think.
amazing.
Yeah, I think that's probably why they got the nod.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Koji Pro has been adding a bunch of more screens you have to leaf through in the beginning of Metal Gear Solid 5. So
That's true.
I played
Kojima
through it last
retweeted-
night, and I booted it up for like the first time since October, and I counted them. I had to go through like 24 screens to get like not just the black screens, but like the here's your forward operating base rating and espionage rating, all this nonsense, just to go play that one mission where you kidnap or kill the commander.
right.
Just because I wanted
insane.
to replay that.
Why do we have to have that every time?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
this is annoying.
Best multiplayer nominees were Call of Duty Black Ops 3, Destiny the Taken King, Halo 5 Guardians, Rocket League, and Splatoon. Our prediction was Destiny the Taken King because multiplayer is like the core like it's one of the best co-op multiplayer games we feel like.
Right.
So we thought
Got some long legs for a
Right.
lot of people in the
we
office
thought Taken
too,
King.
yeah.
And it turns out there is a god, and the winner is Destiny the Taken King. So we
Yeah.
can move on. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. The winner is Splatoon, everybody.
Oh.
Splatoon.
Yep, another miss. So
I love Splatoon.
It's great.
but best multiplayer is a stretch.
it's I think like one of the most innovative multiplayer games.
Sure.
And Nintendo did an awesome job supporting it. And I really enjoy Splatoon, but it's not the most fun. It was hard for me to imagine that being the most fun people had playing multiplayer this year, but we only have our perspective and like the people that we play multiplayer with or see on Twitter or whatever, So.
right. Not to call shenanigans, but there's a lot of Nintendo presence at this show as well. I think there's a little bit of tip of the cap.
And also the same way that we're trying to talk about like Bloodborne seeming like a shoe-in for art direction because it needed its nod. Like I don't think Splatoon was going to win best shooter. Like our prediction
Sure.
will show what we thought with that. But anyway,
It seemed weird to me that Rocket League didn't win too.
Yeah,
For
that's-
sure.
It
Yeah.
won best sports game. and you're like,
Yeah.
it's interesting trying to crack open the logic of these things, and it just goes to show that awards are tricky.
Everybody knows the best multiplayer experience you're going to have is with no communication with your team.
That's true.
And you can't group with your friends when it's launched. So that's great.
Thank you, Ben.
That said, go play Splatoon. It's awesome. I really love it.
from one of the biggest Splatoon
You're right,
defenders.
right.
Best family game nominees: Disney Infinity 3.0, Lego Dimensions, Skylanders Superchargers, Splatoon, and Super Mario Maker. Our prediction was Super Mario Maker because it was nominated.
And the winner is Super Mario Maker because it was nominated.
Yeah.
Well done. But
Not the
think that
best,
was the
not the best
reasoning,
game to
too.
play locally with people, like at the same time. Like it's not a
Right.
good co-op game, but it's a good like trade the controller.
Skylanders disappointing this year. Disney Infinity 3.0 is ambitious. It's all right.
Dimensions
Lego
did not
Dimensions.
set the world on fire.
Reiner really liked it. I did not have a great time with it. And Splatoon, I think I probably would have given it to Splatoon personally.
If your
but-
family's spread across the entire country, then I guess it would make sense to
Right.
play with your family like on the internet if you don't want to talk to them. Yeah. Otherwise, it's okay. Next up is best role playing game. I think we all have a good idea of where this was going to go, whether it got Game of the Year or not. I felt like the nominees: Bloodborne, Fallout 4, Pillars of Eternity, The Witcher 3, Wild Hunt, and Undertale.
I love that Undertale's on there.
Yeah, just squeaking in there.
Yeah.
Witcher 3 was our prediction.
And Witcher 3 is a winner.
Yeah.
Well done.
Great, we did it. Next up is Best Shooter. Nominees were Call of Duty Black Ops 3, Destiny Taken King, Halo 5 Guardians, Splatoon, Star Wars Battlefront. Our prediction was Destiny the Taken King, just mechanically, and as far as like everyone loves a sort of a redemption tale, and
Right.
so that's where our vote went.
Yeah. And the winner ended up being Destiny Taken King because there's a god, so we can move on. Oh, wait, no, the winner is Splatoon, everybody.
Was it really?
Was it really?
You're throwing-
Best shooter.
Are you serious?
Yes. Over the Taken King, the motion control Splatoon. Can you
Yeah,
imagine?
you have to turn that off before you can actually play
I
the
think
game.
Destiny it's not as innovative in the shooting mechanics, I think, is Splatoon, like, on the way that you're interacting and like competing with people. But like, as far as shooting goes,
As far as the shooting
like
feel.
classically shooting, like Destiny has some of the best it's ever been.
I don't care about class, just the amount of content that's there. and the depth of it. Like, I cannot imagine giving it to Splatoon over Taken King.
But
That's weird.
again, I think that Splatoon would be somewhere in the most innovative category.
That said, again, everyone go play Splatoon.
It's an awesome game.
Oh, it's a really good
that's not
game.
to that's
Play
not
it.
to discredit Splatoon, which is very cool. Best performance. The nominees: Ashley Birch
boy.
as Chloe Price in Life is Strange, Camilla Luddington as Lara Croft in Rise of the Tomb Raider, Doob Cockle as Geralt.
I'll never forget.
The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. I've never pronounced that name before. Mark Hamill is the Joker, Batman Arkham Knight. Viva Seifert in Her Story. Our prediction was Mark Hamill is the Joker, because who the hell doesn't want to have Mark Hamill, like Luke Skywalker, on their stage? And also, he sat out Batman Arkham Origins as Joker. Troy Baker picked up that one. And the way the Joker was implemented in Arkham Knight was awesome.
I guess we're kind of spoiling that part.
I
of
mean,
night,
the
but
fact
that's
that it's
fine.
even nominated is a spoiler. So.
Yeah, the winner is Viva Seifert from Her Story. Again, my choice here, Mark Hamill as a Joker.
yeah.
I think that performance is above and beyond the previous Arkham games, at least. Like, it's
Is it
an
just because he's
amazing.
been doing it for 20 years, though? And like, well, we know this voice, we know this character.
I don't
like,
know, but I love Her Story. But the idea that that's the best performance of the year is
it's the
unthinkable.
point is that, like, I can't remember who I was talking to about this, but like, that's an all right performance that is dissected and delivered in a fascinating
It's
way.
the way
Yes.
it's delivered. It's the way that
Correct.
game is made. It's,
Correct.
Her performance is fine. I don't want to like.
Yes, it's totally
her or
fine.
anything.
You know what? You can have a completely average like picture, but if it's split into puzzle pieces and you solve it with a friend,
Oh, best
like,
art direction in a
Suddenly,
puzzle.
it's not the point. It's a puzzle. It's not
Right.
not the full picture. That's really
Right.
the best part of it.
It
I
just
don't
seemed like
think,
such a weird choice. Even Ashley
bizarre.
Birch, I would have like gone with over that. I think.
Yeah.
But, I mean-
Camilla's Res of the Tomb Raider.
Not Witcher, obviously.
Yeah, Rise of the
Okay.
Tomb Raider. I don't know.
Hey,
She's
she had to work with some terrible stuff.
yeah, and she's a totally cardboard delivery of most of them.
Just one scene in Tomb Raider to get us like more bonded with Lara is all I need. Just show her being a human just once, just laying back, saying something natural. But
Like
just,
I could get used to this.
exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, but no, you got Jacob stealing the scene, just chewing up all the scenery. That Jacob character.
Well, there's Jonah, that relationship. Ooh,
Oh
boy,
my
those
gosh.
two
Fleshed
thick
out.
as thieves.
Best
Get a
buds.
room already. Get an igloo.
Fun game, bad story. Best narrative. Speaking of, the nominees: Rise of the Tomb Raider. I'm just kidding. Her Story, Life is Strange, Tales from the Borderlands, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, and Until Dawn. Our prediction: Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Sure is a lot of narrative in there, and there's some
Yeah.
super cool side stories.
Absolutely. The winner, Her Story again.
Okay.
And I think it has to be for that presentation angle that
Yeah.
we talked about. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, if you wrote that story out, it's like, oh, here's a weird, twisty story.
This one I can accept better than the best performance.
Sure, because
but-
it's
Yeah.
presented in an interesting way, and
right.
that's I feel like where this would take precedent.
Next up, Best Independent Game. Nominees: Axiom Verge, Her Story, Ori and the Blind Forest, Rocket League, and Undertale. Our prediction was Undertale. Like the cult that built up around Undertale, the enthusiasm there, and then on top of just it being a fascinating, subversive, hilarious game, all made by like one dude mostly, felt like it was a slam dunk. Not to discredit these other games, but
It's okay. It's no big deal. Undertale. Mm-hmm. That was it's decent.
oh,
That's
you're
my
doing a
Toby Fox impersonation from this podcast.
where he undersells.
Yeah, we should get
his
Toby
Undertale.
Fox and Mike Futter to talk about that.
I agree.
Oh boy. Winner for best indie game, Rocket League. Awesome. Absolutely love it. That's such a cool choice.
Yeah, I mean it's an awesome game.
I feel like with the indie genre, it seems like people are always like, oh, some innovative narrative, whatnot. But just the idea of giving it to Rocket League here, like, oh, just the mechanics are so unbelievably fun. Have at it, Tim. I want you to play more of that game.
I want to play more of it too. Maybe over Christmas. But
I
like
think Axiom Verge should have got it.
yeah,
I know.
yeah.
I know. I need to play through that too. But the thing is, what's weird about this is that for Undertale to be nominated as much as it was, for it not to take home anything,
It does seem
especially with how
a shame.
how rabid that community is. Like it's insane.
Maybe second biggest slight over Bloodborne.
Maybe, but then again, at the same time, like
got nominated.
it's not the fans that vote for these things. They're jurors.
I'm trying to
especially
figure out
second
how
jurors.
they
Rural jurors.
sort this out, because like do they be like, well, this one won 3 awards already, should we not give this award?
Or do they be like, maybe we should just give this
do
to
they
this
be
one?
I'm
like,
sorry. Do they be like?
what do you guys think?
All right, that's enough.
well-
Game of the year.
No, that was a serious question. I don't understand why you guys laughed at it.
Yeah, I don't know why we overlooked what your actual question was. Game of the year is nominees: Bloodborne, Fallout 4, Metal Gear Solid 5, Super Mario Maker, Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. We're going to give it to Witcher 3 Wild Hunt for all the same reasons as why it was chosen as developer.
Our prediction.
Yeah, our prediction. Yeah. Our prediction is just it's super ambitious. There's a lot there. People loved it. Good storytelling.
And then it won the actual thing.
And it won the actual thing.
Yeah.
Super cool.
So
we're good at our jobs.
that was we did okay. We got about 50%. Sure. We got 8 hits and 8 misses.
Right.
Which, you know what? Going into this thing, I had to organize all these predictions and talk to the staff and stuff like that. It was tricky business. I've never done like award predictions at all.
Yeah,
but
they're fun.
It got me excited. Again, disclaimer: those aren't our feelings about all those games necessarily. You should stay tuned for our Game of the Year
Game Informers
stuff, our content that's going to be like beginning of January.
I know it's easy to make fun of those, but I do appreciate the awards. Like again, I enjoyed the show, and I think it's just a good opportunity to make you rethink about all these things. Like, oh man, I love her story, but the idea of like, yeah, is her story the most interesting narrative of the year? It's like, I guess.
God, it might be. I can see the arguments for it certainly because we talked about it with this content.
Or just the idea of like, oh yeah, let's put Splatoon against Destiny. Let's really think about this. You know?
Yeah.
That's a weird one. Yeah. Again, how do they sort out these awards?
Shut up, Reeves. I also want to give a tip of the cap for Greg Miller, friend of the show.
Oh, yeah.
He was on this. He won Trending Gamer of the Year, and then he gave a very nice speech. I always love it when somebody like takes a chance, takes an opportunity when they're speaking to a lot of people like in this to actually say something. And he just went out of his way to talk about the amount of work that developers put into it, just saying like, oh, keep going, it's all worth it. So if you didn't watch the show, at least go watch Greg Miller's speech. I noticed like a lot of developers on Twitter too really appreciated that. So it was a well done. He really took advantage of that opportunity.
That was interesting. He thanked a random person in the credits from Rise of the Tomb Raider.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. And cool. Like cool, but yeah. What about the other people?
He should have listed off everybody in the credits.
Wait, what was this?
Read the
Did he like
credits
call
for
someone out and like have him stand up and be like, "What did you work on?"
No, it was somebody he didn't even know. He's like, hey, thanks for Lisa, whatever you're. It's like he just called out this person and is like, I don't even know who you are. I just saw your name in the credits and I want to say thank you.
Oh, it was just like one
As an example.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyways, that's our Game Informer show, everybody.
All right. Yeah.
Woo!
Thanks for watching. See you next week.
See ya.
Bye.
I was trying to hum the theme song, but